Championship is done. What a race it's been!
Well, greatness waits for no one. It is always down to the individual to grab it. That has certainly been the case for champions of years past. The likes of Jerne Simoncic, Bonnerhaus, Bruno Marquez, the greats of our series. But now, as we move into this new year, this new era, it is a new opportunity for one of our competitors to take a step into that greatness. We will visit a slew of historic circuits over the course of 2022. From the Brickyard to the home of British motorsport, our calendar visits some of the absolute greats of modern motorsport, beginning here at Imola as we head 40 kilometres southeast of Bologna once again. 12 months ago, it was Michi Hoyer looking to seal his fate as a dominant force in the World Championship, beginning his triple victory run to start 2021 here at the San Marino Grand Prix and winning the opening race of the season for the second consecutive year. We'll have to wait and see if he'll make it a three-peat as we look to crown a new champion in Formula SimRacing's highest tier. Our journey begins now in the Formula SimRacing World Championship, now partnered by VCO Esports, as their continued push for the biggest and best in sim racing marks the start of this venture. And of course, a massive thanks to our continued sponsorship from Masita Esports. This evening, Felix Van Delft will be bringing you all of the camera work here once again for the season open. He's been here with us all day across the Academy and Pro Championships. I'm Lewis McGlade. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Ewan O'Leary. Cameron Roger will be joining us down in the virtual pit lane as well. And Ewan, for the first time since 2017, we begin the season with no world champions on our grid, leaving this to be one of the most open seasons we've ever had.
It is indeed one of the most open seasons we've ever had. As you say there, we're kind of embarking on a new era here, and it kind of feels like this year might be the year for the Germans, to be honest. Michi Hoyer's here, of course. He'll be very, very eager to put last season right, where he really fell off towards the middle part after taking 3 wins off the start. Obviously, Alex Siebel as well, very strong driver, and he'll be a contender as well as Dennis Jordan, his teammate, of course. So it kind of feels like those three are going to be the ones to watch. But as you say, with no previous champions on the grid, who knows what's going to happen? And judging by the results we saw at this very race last season, who knows what's going to happen? Who would have thought Liam Duval would have finished second in that one? Who is going to be the surprise today? Let's wait and see.
We're going to jump straight into the qualifying session, which is already underway here at San Marino. And of course, the way it works, again, you saw it, 9 laps. Of course, that is an out lap, a time lap, and an in lap, and you do that 3 times. Means we've only got 3 hot laps to do in this session. It is very, very tricky to make the most out of this car, but starting to see some of the new cars that we've got on the grid. We'll talk about that with Cameron Roger in a few moments' time, of course. But Ewan, these cars, fantastic to see some of the new teams as well. Arnage Competition presently on our screen. It is a great looking car.
It certainly is, actually, and we'll see how they go this season. Lots of new things, really, to look at this season. I feel a few new debutants as well. For example, Adam Rainey making his very first World Championship start. Ivan Leonov is making his first full season in the World Championship, and it's the first World Championship race for Jake Dennehan as well, to name a few. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that have chopped and changed throughout the summer, but some things stay the same. Michi Hoyer driving quickly for Burst Esport hasn't changed at all.
Well, whilst we're in this qualifying session, we'll go down to our virtual pit lane to catch up with Cameron Roger about the difficulties of this car to drive around this circuit in a qualifying format like this. How hard is it? You've just given it a go yourself.
Oh, it's very difficult indeed. It's such a fast car through the corners there. You really have to take the absolute the limit of the car through it, but that's so difficult. You want to be really pushing the limits, but then the rear starts giving up a little bit, and then the front starts being really tricky, especially this corner that Panzar's coming up to now, this Piratella fast left-hander. You think you're going in so fast, and that curb on the outside just eats you in if you overdo it. It's so difficult, and the drivers on these soft tyres, low fuel, are really going to be struggling, and that is how we're going to see it. But at the moment, less than a tenth covering the top 5, so looking very tight.
Yeah, very tight. It is not a very long circuit around here. A 1 minute 15.3 for Jan Vosnitzer. Only 7 thousandths clear of his teammate. Now, of course, Netrex P1 Sim Grand Prix. What a fantastic season they had in the Indy Pro Series to end 2021 and start 2022, taking the championship, and moving over into the World Championship. The likes of Noah Roivas for the first time, jumping in for a full-time campaign at this level. that is a pretty fantastic way to start, at least with, still 5 minutes left to go in the session, but ticking off already a couple of laps and topping the session.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been really strong over the winter, especially, and they weren't too bad throughout last season either. I know they didn't have a great World Championship campaign, but they were at first and second in the Pro Championship. Noah Roivers managing to take the title, Jan Vosnica just behind him. So they have proven themselves to be very, very strong indeed, and they're starting off this season very well indeed, getting right in amongst the Germans of Hoyer, Jordan, and Siebel in the top 5 there.
Yeah. And you see those margins at the top. The two favourites coming into this. I mean, it's kind of hard to pick favourites on the grid of this. 2-3 of the favourites there that we were talking about coming into this. Of course, Michi Hoyer winning 3 of the races to start 2021 and taking 4 victories at this level. Dennis Jordan, Alex Siebel, both with victories at this level, including Dennis Jordan, who's the champion of the aforementioned 2021 Indy Pro Series here in FSR, taking his first title in the Formula SimRacing ranks. Let's see what Pignataro could do. He actually did quite well at the Brickyard to end that Indy Pro season, as he'll go across the line. Not sure where the improvement is, a little bit in the final sector, but nothing really major over the lap, losing plenty of time in the first sector. But look at this from Jan Vosnica, though, going fastest in the first sector.
Yeah, not settling for the time that he has on the board at the moment and continuing to go quicker. Dennis Jordan also just green in the first sector right now. But yeah, with the absence of Jurne Simoncic, this really is one of the closest qualifying sessions we've seen for a very, very long time in the World Championship, because we've had 3 seasons of pure domination. We speak about every week. We get excited about all the races and whatever. It was exciting racing, but the unpredictability was certainly lacking at the very front of the field in terms of race wins, but this doesn't look like it's going to be a particular problem this season, judging by this opening session.
Let's see if Dennis Jordan can go and grab pole position, though. He's going quick in the second sector, decent speed in the first sector. Is it going to be pole position across the line? The answer to the question is yes. And by look at that margin, a 1:15.1. Vosnica was improving directly behind, but it wasn't enough to catch Dennis Jordan. Still got another lap or so to do. Noah Roivers, the next one towards the line. Not a great first sector, losing about a 10th or 2 in that, but still with decent time in the second and third. Improves his time within 2/10 of that lap from Dennis Jordan. But what a stunner from our Indy Pro champion.
Yeah, he's certainly in form right now, as you mentioned, with the Indy Pro Championship. Only 4th in the World Championship last season. And I do have my doubts over whether Jordan will be able to contend for this championship over the entirety of the year. If you look at the midpoint of the season last year, very inconsistent, really, getting a podium, but then outside the top 5, almost alternating throughout the middle part of the season. So whether he can compete over the entirety of the year is another problem. But for now, starting off very, very well indeed, and he does tend to in these seasons.
Yeah, I mean, between the two of them, within the freshly branded, by the way, Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports, of course, between the two of them, of Dennis Jordan and Alex Siebel, I've spoken so many times about how long they have been teammates for. It's not as if it's a couple of months. They've been teammates for years, over half a decade. I mean, I remember speaking to them as teammates back in something like 2014, a very long time ago indeed. That partnership does mean quite a lot to them. They bounce off each other very, very nicely indeed. And kind of what that means is each time they enter a season, they know each other's strengths and weaknesses. I'd almost say, this is going to be a little bit harsh, but they're both very consistent. But I agree with you. Dennis Jordan's consistency maybe isn't his strongest point. He does have a lot of pace in the tank. I'd say that he is, regularly speaking, the faster between the two. But Alex Siebel's just almost unbeatable consistency, which we've noted in his run over the course of the last couple of seasons in the World Championship, is what nets them such great results on consistent basis. If they can hammer that home, they will be they'll probably be the dominant force this season, but it's very early doors.
It is. It is. The one statistic I will pull out just to back up your point about Siebel there is that he's only got 1 non-point scoring finish in 21 World Championship appearances now. So I believe anyway. So that just kind of underlines that he is very, very good indeed. And that is exactly how he keeps getting into these places. Of course, runner-up last season, I know he's a good 54 points behind 3-time champion Simoncic, but second place in a World Championship is still not a bad result at all.
I think it's 18 consecutive point scores for Alex Siebel since basically the third round of the 2020 season. We ride on board with Dennis Jordan, who did not qualify very well around this circuit 12 months ago. I think it was only about 7th position that he managed to muster on that grid, a couple of positions behind Alex Siebel, taking much more control of this session as he enters his final lap. We'll ride on board as we'll see how quick this circuit comes about. Fastest in, or faster rather than at least his previous best in the first sector. Someone set a purple time earlier on the session that no one else has really been able to get clean of. Jan Vosnitzer though, also fast. Noah Roivers also fast. Didn't even pick up the Janis Brackstock for our Arnage competition. Jumps up into third spot. And speaking of his consistency, remember how good he was for Ghost Speed before moving over to HME and now over into the clutches of our Arnage competition. Dennis Jordan down to Variante Alta, super late on the brakes, takes the curbs very nicely. A little bit wide on exit, a little bit too much curb.
Yeah, by the looks of things, Vosnica though, just about green in the first 2 sectors. Is it quite going to be enough though? He's only 82 thousandths behind Jordan right now. 2 final corners to go, and we'll see if he can maybe snatch this pole position right at the end.
Yeah, fantastic first sector, better than Dennis Jordan's. Second sector's looking decent. This could be enough for Jan Vosnitzer to go and grab the pole position. They would absolutely love it, and they go crazy in the camp. What's it going to be? Oh, by 2 thousandths of a second, misses out. How do you measure that around a circuit like this? That is tragic for Jan Vosnitzer. I don't think you can get much tighter than that.
No, absolutely not. A very, very close qualifying session indeed. And Colin Spork as well, making it very close. Only 0.04 of a second down in third. Just look at some of these times. Very, very close indeed. Michi Hoyer and Alex Siebel, 6th and 7th for them as well. Bit of a surprise to see them so far down.
Yeah, I think there'll be some disappointments within those camps. Michi Hoyer, as said, did pole and victory here last season. 7th position for Alex Siebel. Carlos Martin, Adam Rainey inside the top 10 on debut. Jake Denahan for Edge Esports. But that final improvement from Colin Spork really was the fiery moment towards the end of that session to grab up into third position. Jan Vosnitzer moving out by 2 thousandths of a second from Dennis Jordan. We'll catch up with Michi Hoyer to take us around the circuit much better than I could, as we'll see how the 3-time race winner last season and 4-time race winner overall in the World Championship does. Imola.
Hello guys, welcome everyone to the Formula SimRacing season 2022. We are live for the season opener at San Marino, and I'm very proud to take you guys around the San Marino Grand Prix circuit for a flying hot lap. San Marino circuit, the host of the season opener for the FSR 2022 season. DRS is wide open, and across the start finish line we go, coming towards the best overtaking spot. Turn 2 and 3, basically a chicane. Want to be flat out through 4 and easy on the steering as the car can easily step out into turn 5. Want to stay all the way on the inside here to set yourself up through 6, and then into 7 we go. A very late apex hairpin where you want to be on the throttle as early as possible with great traction up the hill towards turn 8. 2 downshift to the left, full mount of the curb. Don't go too wide over the rattle curb on the outside. Coming down towards Aqua Minerali, a little bit of coast to the right, King, then heavy braking into the right hand turn up the hill. Car can be a little bit loose over the crest, and then heavy braking for Variante Alta, the big chicane. Not too hard onto the rattle curb as DRS is enabled again for the back straight down to the final 2 turns. Rivazza 1 and 2 want to hug the inside of that curb a little bit, and very important Rivazza 2. You want to have a great exit onto the start finish straight. Again here, DRS wide open, and we're going to be across the line. That is the San Marino circuit, host of race 1 for the FSR 2022. We got a great season ahead, and now I can't wait to see the drivers battling it out for the first win of the season.
Well, thank you once again to Michi Hoyer there for taking us a little bit of a view around this circuit here. Imola, Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Adino Ferrari, a fantastic race circuit here in Italy. It's not in San Marino, it's quite far away from San Marino, but we'll gloss over that one. Qualifying, though, complete in a fantastic session it was. We'll head to Cameron Roger to ask any surprises from that session.
I think really one of the main surprise actually is seeing the likes of Jan Wonska and Noah Rovers really step up towards this top level, getting up to that level so quickly. Obviously, they did so good in the Indy Pro Series and in the Pro Championship last year, but then to actually handle the pressure and come in and almost take pole position for Jan, I think was a really good result, and that sort of is going to make it a bit interesting for the strategies. I think we saw in the Pro Championship a few moments ago that the NetRex guys, they tried the one stop there and it seemed to work. The two stop was just a bit not enough for Grankvist, whereas here we've got an extra 13 laps. So I do wonder if we're going to see anyone try the one stop. I think the two stop is going to be the way to go in terms of raw pace, but then you're going to need to overtake. And then using the push to pass is going to be very important for that, as you have limited time, only 100 seconds over the whole race. There's not even 2 seconds a lap that you can use it for. So using that at the perfect times on your outlaps is going to be very important. And the last thing to note on that is the undercut is very powerful.
I was going to ask, the tyre wear around here, how is it? Hard, easy, in the middle?
I would say to do a one stop is not easy. It's doable, but you can't really make mistakes. You can't go slide in the car. You've got to be very controlled, and you have to play the long game. Your stints are going to be 30 odd laps long, so you have to really be patient, maybe follow a car in front of you, use their DRS to pull you along in the slipstream a little bit, because the two-stop really is the easier strategy, but you then have to push for pretty much the whole race to make it back. So it's quite an extreme of either being conservative or then pushing. There's no real in-between.
Well, cheers, Cam. We'll catch up with you as the broadcast unfolds and as the race does indeed. But Ewan, again, what a tight way for the season to open. Just 2,000 per second to separate pole position. That is classic FSR. And I'm sure, probably watching on to some degree, it's proof that we don't need Jan Simicic to make this exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody was in any doubt about that, really, because
poor guy. We just throw him straight.
We did like having Simicic here, but he was quite good. So it's good to have maybe a little bit of a closer championship this season, hopefully, because the 3 titles that he did win were quite comfortable in the end, really, for him, and he did run away with it. Interestingly, he didn't really run away with this particular race last season, and he didn't get pole on either occasion. It's returned in 2020, this track, from a 13-year absence, all the way back in 2007 was the one before that. So he certainly wasn't racing at that time, but didn't get pole on either occasion, and didn't exactly dominate the race that he won in 2020 either. Only 3 seconds at the line. Michi Hoyer obviously was the winner last time around here as well. So it wasn't his favourite circuit. We did see some different kind of winners and different interesting things going on at this particular race. But over a season's distance, this one promises to be the most exciting for years, quite possibly.
I think the thing that separates Jan Simicic from most of them was his consistency when it comes to grabbing podiums. Only one race last season that he took part in, he didn't get a podium, and that was why he ended up winning the championship. There's only one driver that I could really think of that has that level of consistency, and that is Alex Siebel. Just needs to find a bit more pace to go and grab those podiums on a more consistent basis, and let's be just consistent. Let's take a look at the starting grid, though, for the first round of the season. Dennis Jordan, Jan Vosnitzer will start from the front row of the grid alongside Colin Spork for Unicorns of Love and Janis Brackshot for our Irish competition. Watch out for those pink cars on the second row of the grid. Noah Rovers with Michi Hoyer, the race winner here 12 months ago. Alex Siebel for Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports, way behind his teammate Carlos Martin, starts from 8th place. The final 2 positions within inside the top 10. Adam Rainey starts off his World Championship career inside the top 10 with Jake Denan for Edge Esports. Ivan Leonov, who did well earlier on in the day with Zolt Schuch alongside for Ground Effect. Robin Panzar returns to the World Championship with Laurent Kiersmakers and Sandar Callis. Damian Skovron behind, one driver that we know has fantastic pace and consistency, but only down in 16th position alongside Tom Oldermenger, Robert Pignataro, Liam Rantz and Antonius Camaralagas. starting from the rear. Not a great start to the season from TR powered by Geeks Energy. They are very much the new team to the Formula SimRacing World Championship, and the expectation is that they are going to struggle early doors, but might well figure it out as the season goes, and that's how we all have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Liam Rancis is going to be very familiar with the rFactor 2 platform. There's no doubt about that. He's traditionally, I was searching for there. Traditionally, a kind of a GT driver, endurance kind of driver. So this is a step into the unknown a little bit. But yeah, looking at the tyre choices at the moment. Obviously, Cam was talking about the different implications of one stopping, two stopping, all of the tyre compounds. How good are they? How bad are they? Etc. There's a fairly decent split of different compounds going on at the moment. Dennis Jordan on the mediums, but the three behind him on soft. So he's going to be under fire immediately in this race.
Get a final word from Cam Roger before we start this race. This being the Formula Pro car, a car that some of these teams have taken part in before, but never in a race this long. How do you think that's going to play into it?
I think it's going to be quite different to the races that they've done before. Interesting to see a lot of guys starting on the medium, so watch out later on in the race. They're going to be very fast on the soft with a lot lighter fuel by the time we get to that stage as well. Whereas the guys starting on the soft now, they're effectively going to be a bit slower later on in the race. However, they might be able to gain some track position early on in the race. So yeah, it's going to be a very exciting one. Battle of the one stops, battle of the two stops. So yeah, let's see how this one goes.
Ewan, who's doing it for you? Who's winning this race?
I quite fancy Dennis Jordan to hold on here, I've got to be honest. But I will be looking out for Braxock. A little bit of a surprise. You wouldn't have said that at the start of the day that he might win, but I think he might produce something today, at least a podium for him.
Yeah, Janis Brakshock had said before his consistency within the World Championship has actually been pretty impressive in years past. Remember his run in 2020 where he scored points in every single race up until the final one of that season. Fantastic podiums at Germany and Italy. We won't speak about that one in 2019. It was a bit of an incident late on in the race between himself. I think it was Martin Gosby and Jerne Simoncic. The front of the grid, though, is about to be set. Dennis Jordan, Jan Vosnitzer, they'll have to wait a fair while for everyone else to line up on the grid. 20 cars here in San Marino for the San Marino Grand Prix here at Imola to start off yet another season in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Many thanks to our broadcast partners VCO and sponsorship from VCO Esports as we'll ready our season. I think it might be one of the Netrex cars that's slightly out of line in the form of Ivan Leonov, but the lights are going to come on and we are ready once again to get a season underway in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. It is go, and look at Colin Spork. He had the best start from third spot, nearly got past Dennis Jordan, who just bogged down completely, and Jan Vosnitz has taken the race lead. There's been a contact as well, and Colin Spork's gone straight over at Tamburello.
Yeah, straight across. Jordan didn't give him a lot of room there, and he had a really poor start. These medium tyres not biting in very well at all off of the start by the looks of things. He's fallen back a little bit, but looks like a fairly clean start from everybody else behind.
Yeah, fantastic stuff from Jan Vosnitzer to just take over that race lead. I mean, might have just been poor reactions from Dennis Jordan. We'll have to wait until post-race to understand exactly what's happened as our focus now on the race winner 12 months ago, Michi Hoyer, 6th position. No progress made in the early stages on that run down to Tamburello for the first time. Back up to Colin Spork in fourth spot. There's Dennis Jordan going straight over, and here comes Janis Brakshock for Arnaud's competition to grab second.
Yeah, it couldn't really not take that opportunity there. Jordan struggling on this first lap, maybe with a bit of tyre temperature issues, just getting these tyres to really get going in this race, or indeed the soft tyres maybe even a lot better than we thought than the medium tyres. We'll wait and see on that one, but he's going to have a lot of defending to do here, is Jordan, because Spork is right behind him again, and these two clashed this time last lap on lap one, so we'll see how it goes this time. I think there's going to be little resistance put up by Jordan on the second lap though.
Welcome, Unicorns of Love, to the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Did fantastic things in the VCO ERWC. Looks down the inside to grab third position, squeezes Dennis Jordan a little bit in the braking zone into Tamburello. A very typical move as Noah Roivers now looking to the outside of Dennis Jordan as we run down towards Variante Villeneuve. Is there an opportunity for Roivers to find his way through? The answer to that question is a very solid no, as it is medium-tired runners directly behind Dennis Jordan. He'll be aware of that. He'll be getting the call from his teammate Alex Siebel as to what's happening between those two of Roivers and Hoyer that sit between the two Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports cars, but up towards Piratella. Here comes Roivers.
Yeah, Jordan struggling so much at the moment, and it's not even those who are on soft tyres now getting through on him, because Noah Roivers is on the same compound as him, but but still had no defence there whatsoever. Up the hill there towards Piratella, turn 9, straight down the inside, and there was absolutely nothing Jordan could do once again. Now Michi Hoyer is going to be have seen this. He's going to fancy his chances as well, you'd imagine. This is a remarkable start from Jordan, losing 4 places in only 2 laps.
Well, down to Cameron Roger. What is going on with Dennis Jordan right now? Seeming to struggle on speed in the early stages of this first running of the San Marino Grand Prix to open the season.
Yeah, looking how quick he was in qualifying, he's clearly got the car underneath him. I just wonder if he's just taking the beginning part of this race a bit more careful. Obviously, this is the important part for the tyres. Got Michi Hoyer just coming up right behind him now. Is this going to be another position lost, or is he just going to sit there behind? He's going to sit there behind. But I do think that Jordan is just going to be taking this a little bit more calmly and trying to not really lose too much time fighting the guys ahead and keeping those tyres in good position, maybe to try a bit of an audacious one-stop.
Gotta say, Ivan Leonov started from 11th position there. He's going wide. That's no Roivers. Roivers gone straight on. Oh my goodness. Now he's dropping all that position. All that hard work he did to get up into 4th spot is gone.
Yeah, absolutely. It would look like a little bit of a mistake on the exit of the Villeneuve chicane there, just getting onto the gravel and couldn't really gather himself up very quickly at all. So he's dropped down to 7th place now, and Jordan is once again the cork in the bottle here. It will be interesting to see how Roivers managed to get himself off the road, but he was certainly a long way off and really quite out of control when we looked at him.
Yeah, 1 stop, 2 stop, that's the real question of the day. And if this is a 2 stop for Noah Roivers, it has just bitten quite a hard bullet right there by just not being able to make much progress after passing. You can see DRS wide open on quite a few of these cars coming down into the final couple of corners. That is the expectation. 2 DRS zones here at Imola. One on the start-finish straight just as we pass the start the start of the pit lane, as we can see it flat right open for Michi Hoyer. You can see it opening up on your graphics as well. We're right on board with Alex Siebel. Oh, there goes Michi Hoyer to the inside of Dennis Jordan, coming down into Tamburello. I was thinking it might have been Siebel, but it's Jordan who's gone straight on to hold the position, and here comes Alex Siebel.
Oh, and Michi Hoyer off the road. He's going to get overtaken by Roivers, and Leonov now is having a fantastic start. Siebel gets through on Jordan, making a great start for Siebel. And it's all changed through turns 1 and 2 there. It'll be interesting to see what happened there once again, because it looked like there was, space given. Was there not space given?
Oh, who's that in the background?
Looks like Skrovron has gone round in the background.
Oh, just lighting it up too much on the rear end on the exit of Tozer. So easy to do around a circuit like this, where you're slightly off-cambered and slightly just eager on the power, shall we say. We're on board with Michi Hoyer to see what happened. I mean, a little bit of contact, not too much space given. Kind of the expectation of hard racing, and he just understeers straight off the track.
Yeah, the second part of that certainly was just a bit of understeer there. Whether he gave enough room to Jordan is questionable, but I think there was just not a lot of room there, really, and they were, diving into this turn here. Does Jordan make a very big effort to make the corner? I feel like he doesn't really, but let's see on board from his perspective. Feels like he's just going deep into the corner, really, kind of on his own almost, and holds the place. But Hoyer went wide anyway, and then Siebel got through on him, so I'm not sure Jordan really gained very much out of it at all. He's just been overtaken on live pictures by Noah Roivers there straight away.
Yeah, I think they were both just pushing it a little bit too hard into the corner and just overcooked themselves. And just to correct, as you were suggesting earlier, it wasn't Skrovron, it was Robin Panzer who had that spin on the exit of Tozer. You were the one who pointed it out. That's not me trying to throw you under the bus. Don't worry, I'm picking up as we're on board with Dennis Jordan. The medium runners, if they're going to battle it out like this, though, Ewan, they are going to be costing themselves so much time, as getting a little bit beached on the curb on the exit of Piratella.
Yeah, they're just shooting each other in the foot, really. You could argue, but then again, if you're stuck behind Jordan, you see him losing all those places. Do you want to be behind him? Because you might be losing time anyway. But so Roivers decided it was a good idea to go through, and it's kind of kicked all this off. And it's not really calmed down ever since, really, because Leonov and Martin are now into this fight, and they're going to be very, very eager to get through here in the next few moments on those soft compound tyres. They are drivers who need to get through and make hay while the sun shines, so to speak, while they're on the faster compound. So while these medium tyre runners might be quite content to sit behind one another, Leonov and Martin certainly won't be.
Well, the top three clearing away from everyone else. We'll see if Ivan Leonov will be able to get down the inside of Dennis Jordan. The answer to that question is very solid no. Got to remember, by the way, between Colin Spork and Jan Vosnitsa, those two are both teams run by Netrex. Of course, Unicorns of Love through that partnership that they made doing the VCO Esports Racing World Cup. That partnership continues here into the Formula SimRacing World Championship as they grab Colin Spork back off of Team Redline. Fantastic partnership, but surely Spork's not going to do too much on the back end of Jan Vosnitsa. Janis Brakschok happy just to be towed along for the ride at the moment. The train behind contains Siebel, Roivers, Jordan, Leonov, Martin, Hoyer, who's now down to ninth spot, Adam Rainey, who's got himself back inside the top 10. Then you've got Jake Denahan, Zoltz Schuch and Sandar Kallis. Realistically, the final parts of this train, the other runners being Laurent Kiersmaker, Skovron, Oldemenga, Liam Rantz, Pignataro, Panzar, and of course Karaligos, who starts from the back and is currently running in that final spot, now behind the Swede of Robin Panzar.
Yeah, indeed, it's a very, very close train all the way from fourth position, and not everyone wants to really be here. I've got to say, it's fairly calm up front as I'm just trying to monitor the gap there. Spork trying for a move, quite possibly, but here in fourth place, Roivers is going very easily through on Siebel there, and Leonov doing the same to Jordan by the looks of things.
Yeah, but it looks like Jordan might well fight this one a little bit too much. Down to the inside at the first part of Tamburello. That was a bit brave. If the contact model had been picking it up, he might well have lost, in a sense, part of his front wing from doing that. Got a little bit of damage on the nose of that Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports car. Little bit unwise potentially to leave it down the inside of a soft tire runner, Ivan Leonov. Again, play the long game. We know that Siebel and Jordan are very, very good at that. Same with the likes of Michi Hoyer. It's why those three Germans realistically might well be some of the favourites across this championship. But favourites are being put by the wayside as Vosnitsa and Spork are starting to pull away from Janis Brakschok. This is great stuff from the top two.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wonder if there's been a bit of a mistake away from our cameras there, but Spork certainly looks like in the last couple of laps, as we get into and kind of bed into this stint, he's getting quicker and quicker and quicker. Vosnitsa's kind of been keeping at the same pace, a very good pace, because he's leaving Brakschok behind, but Spork is just getting faster and faster at the moment, and it doesn't look like anybody can really stop him. He got very close to a move last lap, and here he comes this time.
Yeah, Sport grabbing the race lead then for Unicorns of Love. They really are welcoming themselves to the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Colin Spork to the front of the field ahead of Jan Vosnitsa as they're side by side behind. There's Ivan Leonov grabbing the position off of Alex Siebel, and also one behind from Carlos Martin. The Unicorns of Love up past Dennis Jordan as well. The Red Bull Racing Esports are dropping backwards at the moment on this grid, and now Dennis Jordan has to come toe-to-toe with Michi Hoyer, who came to blows at Tamburello a few laps ago.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to certainly remember that incident when they come together again here. But Jordan cannot stop falling backwards at the moment. It really is quite remarkable to see this right now. He's just continuing to fall back, and even Alex Siebel right now can't really keep pace with Noah Roivers, who's been allowed to get away. So what on earth is going on at Red Bull at the moment? I know it's only 8 laps into this race, and it's no time for panic just yet, but they've got to be scratching their heads a little bit here as to how they are losing so much time.
Did go down to Cam Roger about this a bit earlier. We will do once again as to the struggles of Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports in comparison. What do you think is going on here with those Red Bull cars comparatively to Noah Roivers? Roivers seems to have the medium tyres under his belt at the moment and gaining the speed. Why is that?
I think it's just a difference of, I think the Netrex cars are sort of pushing at the moment. I think they're trying to get to the track position, trying to get ahead as we see. And now an overtake again with Leonov. He's really pushing at the front. I think he must be going for a 2-stop, trying to get the track position at the moment, because he knows he needs to make a stop more than the cars around him who would potentially be on a 1-stop, because you've seen how fast Siebel and Jordan are in previous seasons. You've seen how sort of close they can battle at the front, and they've really started to drop off. And I think it's not just the difference between the medium and the soft. I think there is a strategy difference going on here, which is good to see, but we won't find out for another sort of 5-10 laps if the 2-stoppers start coming in.
Whilst we're with you, what is the expected window with the 2-stops? When are we expecting those to jump into the lane?
I think most people would literally split the race into 3, so about 21 laps each stint, give or take a lap here or there, because even the guys on the mediums are still a very good time. You can push them quite a lot, so I think it'll be pretty even in that regard. And then regarding the 1-stop, for the likes starting on the medium, they've got to go at least sort of 33 laps to leave about 30 laps on the soft at the end.
Well, cheers, Cam. We'll come back to you a few more times throughout this race. I'm absolutely sure as we do take our steps into the unknown with this Formula Pro car here on rFactor 2. Carlos Martin we ride on board with, looking for a position on Alex Siebel, who also has DRS on Roivers.
Yeah, this kind of DRS train does make things difficult, but it's not going to prevent Martin from giving this a go. You're going to have a look down the inside, but there's not a lot of space there, let's be honest, into the first chicane there. You can't really stick your nose down the inside. We saw what happened with Richie Hoyer earlier on. Do you really want to be sticking your nose down the inside? Because sometimes the car on the outside will just drive across the gravel and stay in front of you anyway. So it's a lose-lose situation on some occasions. Kind of embedded within this pack at the moment. If Carlos Martin just qualified ever so slightly better, then he would have been up with those top 3 or 4 right now, but unfortunately wasn't quite able to string it together enough, and he's now stuck a little bit in this 7th position, of course. Very experienced driver. He'll know how to be patient, and he'll know that he needs to be patient at the moment. Just a case of getting through as efficiently as possible.
Oh, Colin Spork is starting to break. Jan Vosnitzer here is fancying no part of that. Oh, a little bit of a lock-up on the rear end, just slowing it down, coming downhill into Ravazza. So easy to do. Was pulling away to the tune of nearly a second on Jan Vosnitzer, but after that little moment, Jan Vosnitzer is able to close back in, not to within DRS range, which is 0.7 of a second, I'm wisely informed, in this. And so, unfortunately, no DRS for Jan Vosnitzer, but we know that DRS is not the only tool they have at their disposal. They can also use a push-to-pass as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is going to be very, very helpful, but it's only 100 seconds throughout the race, and if you divide that by the 63 laps, that's about less than a second and a half a lap when you figure things out. Obviously, you won't need to use it every lap, and you'll have to be a bit more efficient than that, but while it sounds like a lot of this race, it really isn't when you actually start to drill down like that. So, you're going to have to be careful with it, even though that is going to be very helpful. And I think at a circuit like this one in particular, it's going to be helpful. It's not going to be as much of a factor at some of the other circuits that we're going to this season.
Got to say, by the way, as much as there is a couple of breaks appearing in this train, when you consider who is in this train when it comes to our FSR World Championship mainstays, the likes of Alex Siebel, Carlos Martin, Dennis Jordan, Mitchie Hoyer, the fact that Noah Roivers, rookie for the full time running in the Formula SimRacing World Championship, is running towards the head of this train. And also, a bit of a shout out to Jake Dennehan and Adam Rainey, who are sat on the rear end of this train and are starting to sort of mess with the bigger names of the World Championship, which for them too, I think is a good little step into 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Carlos Martin, just getting distracted by Carlos Martin here because he's going through on Alex Siebel. No arguments about that one. May even have been a bit of push to pass there because it looked like he had a staggering amount of speed compared to the Red Bull driver.
Like I say, you use that push to pass at the right time. You can fly past, but you've kind of got to hope that they're not using it and not going to try and react to it. 100 seconds. When you really think about that, if you use the same amount, every single lap throughout the entire race, not that you would ever do that, you're obviously saving it up over some laps, but say you used it, it's only 2 seconds a lap. That 100 seconds flies past very, very quickly indeed. You want to save that for later in the race. You want to make sure that you can really start to push this. It's kind of how it used to be back in sort of 2018, 19, 20, when we were, obviously different mix modes and stuff, which I think they still do. But running the different mix modes back then, it was quali boost, which was almost like the push to pass. And they were just waiting for the right time. You only had a certain amount that you could use through the race before the engine literally blew up. And so they knew how long it was, and they were waiting for the right time to do it, and they were saving it up through the race. The amount of engine explosions we had in that season, it was not cheap.
I think the consequences this year, thankfully, a little bit less extraordinary, thankfully. But yeah, it's certainly something that you'll have to think about once again in 2022. As there are kind of a load of new challenges, and in terms of the tyres, Cam's been talking about limiting the sliding and keeping the temperature down and so on and so forth. These are all things that haven't really been as much of a factor or not a factor at all in previous seasons, and now all of a sudden they are. Obviously a new car as well, new era with no previous champions on the grid this season. It really is very, very unpredictable indeed, and I don't think many people would have said that Colin Sport would be out front at the moment, leading this race by over a second, and I don't think people would have predicted Siebel, Jordan and Hoyer all being outside of the top 6.
Well, we know that Colin Spork is a fantastic driver. Of course, did have a podium last season, I believe, driving for Edge Esports, which now have a partnership with Netrex, meaning that Netrex realistically have 8 cars on the grid. We'll get over that. That's absolutely fine. But did take a podium on the streets of Azure halfway through last season. Had a couple of decent debut races. Well, didn't have the results from them, 11th in the retirement, but did start off a World Championship career in fantastic form. Did Colin Spork, and I think that's kind of more of a continuation of that and consolidation of basically being a World Championship driver. Same with Noah Roivers, who of course is our 2021 Pro Series champion, in fantastic form as well. Sat there just behind Ivan Leonov. I don't think there'll be any attacks between those two, as yes, there is 2 Netrex drivers sat right there. There's a lot of them, was good.
Yes, there are quite a few, but who can blame them for getting as many people out there as possible, because they are the team in form, especially around the Formula SimRacing kind of scene at the moment. As you mentioned, they're pro champions last season, Indy Pro champions as well in terms of the teams. So they're flying at the moment. They really are. And it just remains to be seen how they do over a whole season's length. They've already proved that they can on the second tier of Formula SimRacing, and whether they can at the very top remains to be seen, of course. But yeah, who can blame them for getting as many people out here as possible?
Have noticed there has been a couple of issues for Adam Rainey and Jake Danahan. Don't know what happened to Carlos Martin there, going through Variante Alta, but decided to have absolutely none of what was going on with the racetrack. So good for him. But now under a lot of pressure from the 2 Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports cars. Adam Rainey, by the way, was into pit lane because he's on the medium tyres. It makes a lot of sense because he was on the softs. I can keep up.
Yes, absolutely. There's not many people out there on the softs right now remaining. It still remains to be seen, really, as to whether these guys can get all the way to those that all-important 21 laps that Cam was talking about, or indeed even a little bit deeper. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe Cam can shed a bit of light in a few moments' time. But how far will these softs be able to go? And if we see somebody going, 25 laps, are we looking towards a one-stop maybe at some point? We'll wait and see. Just looked like he drove off there.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they can basically, if you're going to straight line, I mean, say straight line, that was going very much to the opposite side, but if you're going to cut on the exit of the corner, you're better off to avoid those sort of 4 sausages on the exit, because they can, particularly with a car like this, where it is running quite low, you can effectively smash your car, and that's never a good thing to do in an open wheeler like this. Back on board with Dennis Jordan, who will basically just be sat here thinking, I'm going to wait for Alex to do something. Michi Hoyer behind him probably won't be quite as patient, especially as Michi Hoyer has no pressure behind us. Jake Denhan's basically 5 seconds off the rear end of the burst driver.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to want to rectify what happened at turn 1 all those laps ago, I feel, by getting through here in the next few moments. But it's very, very difficult. As I mentioned earlier on, these guys are in a big DRS train from Siebel. Well, Siebel didn't quite get it that time, but Jordan's got DRS, and that makes Hoyer's life very, very difficult indeed. And so everybody's just struggling here. I do just wonder as well how much these guys are actually pushing at this stage. Are they on the limit right now, or are they keeping something back so that they can keep their tyres in check right till the very end? Because a notable characteristic of them, of course, is that once they are gone, they're gone. You've got to drive exceptionally slowly to get them back into the temperature window again, which you really can't afford to do.
Yeah, when it comes down to the there's 2 variances when it comes to the usable life of the tyre. Of course, we speak of what is the actual wear of the tyre, the percentage wear, how much, what would be in realistic terms, how much of the tread or whatever is left of the tyre, and then of course thermal degradation. So how hot the tyre gets and where it loses its grip in that sort of thermal window. So those 2 sides of it. Basically, in this tyre, they can run the percentage almost all the way down to 0. I think it's about 5% until they've really gone off the cliff, which, let's be honest, 5% is quite a low digit when it comes to 100%. But it's the thermal degradation that's a real key part of these tyres. They do struggle to keep within that window. Yeah,
absolutely. This is the real key that we've been kind of building up to this entire time. Can you keep the tyres in that window? How far can you take them as well? Can you manage a one-stop here throughout the entirety of this race? 63 laps around him is not an insignificant distance, and we've seen the two-stop nearly viable for the pro race we saw just an hour or two ago. So goodness knows what it's going to be like in the World Championship. In theory, Cam was mentioning this to us before we went on air, so I can say this and kind of steal his information, which is great.
Nice.
He kind of, I know. He said that the two-stop kind of on paper would be faster, but can you make your way through the traffic? That really is the key. And judging by what we've seen so far, it's not impossible, but you can get stuck like we're seeing here in the back part of the top 10.
We should go to Cam to just back up that information. Cam.
Yeah, that is
Nice,
true.
straight in right in the
It's not a significant amount. It's maybe sort of 4 or 5 seconds in that sort of region, but that can very easily be changed with traffic. Because what you're going to see with the likes of, because I think we're pretty confirmed now, definitely Spork, just the way he was pushing earlier, definitely I think he's going to be going on a two-stop. He's going to be coming in fairly shortly, and it's going to be around 24 seconds or so for a pit stop. So he might come out just ahead of Damien Scovron, but then he's going to have to overtake the likes of Denahan, Hoyer, Jordan, catch up to those guys, and that is going to be what's difficult, because doing the extra stop, he's going to lose that track position that he's got now and have to do those overtakes on track at some point.
Well, Cam's definitely listening, so at least there's that, and we're up to date on that one. I mean, it's like I say, a race like this, with it being something new. We say this every time we come racing in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. When it comes to a new season, it's all about learning as the season goes on. The meta, so to speak, the strategy. No one really figured out in the early stages of 2021 except for Michi Hoyer, and that's why he won 3 on the bounce. Of course, his fantastic speed also helped with that, but his understanding of the strategy and the experiments that he did, that was what really helped him win from a strategical point of view. Look at Germany.
Yeah, he did do very well at the start of the season, but I feel like the kind of confidence and the pace that he had early on in that season was actually more of a factor actually than his handle on the strategic situation. You noticed as soon as he lost that race at the Netherlands, it was where he DNF'd dramatically through the final couple of corners. All of his, well, not all of his confidence was gone, but it certainly took a hit. It allowed Simoncic kind of to find his feet in the championship, and then from then on in, Hoyer had a bit of a disaster over the next 3 rounds as well. So as we see, Roivers getting through on Leonov there. I feel like keeping the confidence up and keeping the good results kind of coming in for Hoyer is a lot more important than his handle on the strategy here in these races.
Yeah, well, I mean, running the, like I say, just changing the strategy on the fly is going to be critical in a race like this, and understanding where you can go on tyres. Just kind of wondering how these are all going to work out. Well, like I say, with all the different Netrex drivers and stuff that we have in this little grouping, do they form a partnership here? Do they work together, or do they just go on the attack? What would you do in this scenario, Ewan?
It's very difficult to really say here. I mean, in the situation we're seeing with these guys, we've been following these guys almost all race at this stage, because it is by far the closest things that are going on. Lots of overtakes and so on. I feel like some of these guys are a little bit stuck and don't really have a lot of choice either way in what they're doing right now. Even if they wanted to kind of move forward, I don't feel like some people can. However, that may open the door for somebody to do something a little bit off-piste, maybe in the next couple of laps. We're getting towards that 1/3 distance mark that Cam said was important. Splitting this race into thirds, pitting at the end of lap 21, very possible. But yeah, I feel like if you are Michi Hoyer right now, even if you wanted to move forward, which I'm not necessarily think he does, even if he did, I mean, where can he go? It's very hard for him to get anywhere here.
This train running around the same sort of lap times now as our race leaders. That gap just holding station to sort of update you on where we are in comparison to the fastest laps of the race. The fastest lap of the race is in Colin Spork's hand, a 1:18.751. Last lap completed a 1:19.8. Is really setting sail, by the way, at the top. Janis Backshot, who's struggling on speed, mid-120s right now, and really being caught by the chasing pack that's being led by Noah Roivers. It's almost a bit like cycling this. So we've got the peloton. I've always, I love my cycling analogies when it comes to racing and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Literally every broadcast. But it is, you've got your peloton here and they're starting to catch the breakaway. I know you like cycling, it's fine.
I'll try and keep the sports separated, but but either way, I see what you're saying. It's just a case of whether Colin Spork is going to be caught here today. We saw earlier on that, last season, kind of the guys up front. We spoke early on in the race. Are they going to be caught by guys behind and so on and so forth? and in the end they just ended up staying in the lead the entire time. So we'll see if that's a similar situation. But we now have our first pit stops of the season. Vosnicker and Braxok both making their first tyre change, and presumably we'll be going on to the mediums here after only 20 laps.
They are indeed soft compound tyres, though, for Jan Vosnitz. You can tell by the white sidewalls. Of course, we've got different tyre compounds within the Formula SimRacing World Championship, and Vosnitz decides it's time to start setting some lap times and continue to set those lap times and try and maybe use the undercut that Cam was talking about to get past Colin Spork. Cam, do you think that is the goal at the moment for Jan Vosnitz, just to try and grab track position?
Oh, definitely. I think he would have probably wanted to go another couple of laps realistically to help him a bit later on in the race. But yeah, the undercut, we're going to see maybe even 2 seconds or so with just a lap of undercut, maybe using some push to pass on the out lap as well, really getting the maximum out of these tyres. So I think if Spork doesn't react here, I think he has the opportunity of being undercut and Wozniacki taking the lead.
Well, Colin Spork is now into the pit lane as well, back on board with Dennis Jordan, focused forwards, as we'll see with Alex Siebel as well. And Colin Spork into the pit lane, dropping down those positions. As we'll see, he is onto the medium tyres.
Yeah, bit of a difference out here at the moment, and it's well could see Vosnicker taking the lead at some point in this next stint here. There is the Netrex car in the background. Gained a little bit of time there because the gap is now down below 2 seconds. It was out to nearly 3 before those pit stops, just underlining how important the undercut is around here. Then these soft tyres are really going to help to reel in Spork. However, we saw last season, I don't want to try to compare to last season too much because the tyres are different, the cars are different, etc. But the winning strategy was almost always to have 2 soft stints at the start of the race. I just wonder if that's going to be the case this season as well, because if it is, Vosnicker is in a very good place.
Very good. I mean, it was about going aggressive. Who was that? Who was just off the road? I think it was Jake Dennehan, who was off the road going on the exit of Piratella, which I'm pretty sure Colin Spork will be like, cheers, mate. Jan Vosnitz will be like, thanks, mate. But clearly, Dennehan in the loop and basically jumping out of the way of Vosnitz. Completely differing strategies there. I think that might have been the right call, just to sort of stick to themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably the best call for everybody, really, as you say, to keep themselves to themselves. As Carlos Martin on the soft tyres, really struggling now, and Siebel is going to be using a big bit of overspeed there to get through very easily indeed. It certainly seems that after 20 laps or so, those soft tyres are beginning to struggle, but they are going quite a long way now, Martin and Leonov. I wonder if they're bringing themselves into that one-stop window, or it's still a bridge too far for them. We know it's going to be difficult, but somebody's bound to try.
Yeah, a couple more drivers entering the pit lane. Dennehan, after those couple of issues down at Piratella. Liam Rance also into the pit lane to sort of make their first stop, which will definitely be 2. Noah Roivers, though, continues to lead in this train of 6 cars that has Roivers, Leonov, Siebel, Martin, Jordan and Michi Hoyer. A little bit wide there, though, from Ivan Leonov in that second position. Soft tyres, they're probably going to be struggling quite a bit at the moment.
Yeah, they absolutely are. The tyre wear really starting to come into effect now. Off the road there, was that Noah Roivers just off the road, maybe at the bottom of our screen? People are starting to struggle ever so slightly. Mistakes seem to be a little bit contagious, to be honest. Over the last couple of moments, it's starting to creep in as the tyres start to wear down. And Martin, certainly one of those under a lot of pressure right now. May well be in, to be honest, but decides not to. Jordan will be getting through here, surely, into turn 1.
I think potentially so. Ivan Leonov into the pit lane looking for potentially some medium tyres. What does Dennis Jordan do on the rear end of Carlos Martin? Alex Siebel second position now as Noah Roivers leads by a second. I think this gap might be good enough just to start, lighting up a little bit. If they've saved the tyres, now is the time to start using them. Yes, we're sort of 7-8 laps away from the expected pit window for them to jump into the lane, but if you've got the tyre life in it, you kind of want to start picking your moments as when to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't afford in these races. The ones who often win are the ones that make use of their tyres in clean air most of the time, or certainly was the case last season. You need to, when you're faster like Jordan is right now, you need to be using it in clean air rather than stuck up behind someone kind of suffering on old tyres just a little bit. So this is quite important really for Jordan. I know we're still in the first half of the race. It's still not for a particularly high position right now in terms of net places, but in terms of the overall outcome of this race, it is important for Jordan to get through, and I think Martin knows that as well. If he wants to beat Jordan today, then keeping behind for as many laps as possible is beneficial to everybody really, and his teammate Colin Spork, of course, who he might be helping out here as well. So you know, it's very important Jordan gets through.
Well, Noah Roivers into the pit lane. Cam, seems like a little bit of a halfway house between the two strategies. Is there much of an advantage in that, or is this still some form of a long-winded attempt, potentially even at a one-stop?
I think this is still a two-stop for Roivers. I think he just went a little bit further on those medium tyres to make the two soft stints a little bit easier. As we saw, the 20-lap mark for the softs is really where they start to lose their main peak of performance. So he's sort of giving himself a nice, sort of more comfortable end to the race on double softs, I would say, because there's no way he's going to get these softs to the end of the race. But interesting that he's only done 25 laps, because if we've seen the likes of maybe these Red Bull cars, Michi Hoy, going for that one stop, they're going to have to go another maybe even 10 laps on these mediums to make that work. And that undercut the Roivers is effectively going to get on them on the soft is going to be quite big. So this could be an important stint for the Dutchman.
Well, we're going to see quite how far these soft tyres are going to go, at least in this race, in the hands of Carlos Martin, sat behind Alex Seeble, and he's just kind of waiting. Is he going to bail into the pit lane this time and follow the other Netrex drivers that have been running this slightly more aggressive two-stop strategy? Or is he going to remain out on the racetrack? He's staying out.
Yeah, he is, and this is with every lap he does, he's pushing himself towards this one-stop strategy that he might be executing here, and it might change the thoughts of Seeble, Jordan and Hoyer. Will they decide for it as well?
Oh.
Martin even trying to go forwards here. Old soft tyres, trying to take the lead, but it's not quite worked out.
I don't know how many laps Carlos Martin has led in his World Championship career. I do not believe it is many. The gaggle really does continue. Alex Seeble leads here at Imola as there is 4 for that race lead. All yet to make their pit stop. Dennis Jordan straight to the inside as they break for Toza. Opens the door potentially even for Michi Hoyer. On the exit of the corner though, the drive off from Carlos Martin is fantastic. Up towards Piratella. Dennis Jordan to the inside to make it an Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports 1-2.
Yeah, Martin really made a mistake by trying to overtake Seeble there. He really did. I don't really see the point of doing that at the moment. He's on old soft tyres with guys on mediums around him in better shape. So if that move didn't come off, like we just saw, he was always going to get overtaken by at least Jordan. And he's lucky Hoyer didn't follow him through as well here, really. Because that would have been a very easy move if Hoyer was a little bit closer. Very, very strange decision for him to try and go down the inside there, but he went for it and he's actually paid the price. It's a Red Bull 1-2 now, and look in the background, his teammate Colin Spork is very nearly amongst these guys already, despite having made a stop in this race.
Yeah, and obviously Jan Vosnitzer as well with them closing in. So this could be big for the two-stop runners. Might be making this one work here at Imola as they are closing in our previous race leaders. The confusing thing of strategy is that it is wide open and no one really knows which one the correct one is. It might well work out that even through the middle point of this race, the two-stop strategy looks like it's going to work well, but even in the final moments, just as a switch happens, it might then go back the way of the one-stop. We just simply do not know. All we do know is that Colin Spork and Jan Vosnitzer are doing everything they can to basically drag their cars, extract the very most out of them to try and seal this victory. But this is exactly what Cam was saying earlier, Ewan, and what you brought up as well, is they need to sieve their way through these 4. They cannot waste time right now.
Yeah, admittedly, Spork is going to have to get through less traffic than I was expecting, actually. When I made the point, I was thinking, this field is going to stay very close. He might well come out, down outside the top 10 and then have to overtake a load of cars. But in the end, the field has got quite spread out quite quickly to a degree that I wasn't quite expecting. And quite a lot of those guys outside the top 10 have pitted as well, making Spork's life a lot easier. And already he's on the back of these guys. Everybody in this top 6 will say have got the same amount of stops remaining, and there's still over half of this race to go for him to pick and choose his moments. And one of them is a teammate, of course.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's using push to pass at the moment. He certainly has a DRS. He's slightly alongside Michi Hoyer. He's just squeezing on the run down into Tamburello. And Michi Hoyer is going to hold on at least for now. And every single corner, every apex, every lap that Colin Spork and Jan Vosnitzer are not able to clear this pack is another lap where their victory charge becomes slightly more difficult. And I've always said with these kind of trains is that the first lap you catch them, that is the time you need to pounce. If you sit there for a couple of laps, you start running at their pace, you start doing what they're doing, and that is when you can really kiss this victory goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree under normal circumstances, but I think that the fact Spork has a teammate here is helpful. And that might just alleviate some of those problems. Although Martin's just made a mistake, there could be a bit of a double pass going on here down the inside of Hoyer. Nice move there from Spork, opportunistic to say the least. Oh, and there's contact as well.
Yeah, that was never the wisest call, as it was 3 wide on the exit of Variante Alto. Jan Vosnitzer is going to come through. Carlos Martin's going to try and hand over the position to both Carlos, to Colin Spork and to Jan Vosnitzer, but he might well hand over the position to Michi Hoyer, who he slaps off the racetrack just a little bit on the exit of the penultimate corner. Out of the final one, Carlos Martin's bailing for the pit lane. He's done his assistance for the team, and Michi Hoyer will be seething within the cockpit of that burst car.
Yeah, he'll be absolutely furious with Martin. There's no doubt about that. Vosnik could get through on Spork as well. But that was very important for the both of them, it has to be said, to get through there. In the manner they did, it was quite messy in the end. But yeah, very good team play as far as Martin is concerned. This is the problem that Michi Hoyer has really this season. He's got a debutant teammate. Demian Skrovron has only done one World Championship race in his career before this season. So he's not going to get much assistance from his teammate like we're going to see for the likes of Spork, Vosnica and so on. They're going to get a lot of team support. Hoyer, absolutely none. And this is going to, it could well become a very common sight throughout the 2022 season.
Yeah, we're right on board with this as we head down the hill as well. So, I mean, that was, I guess, fair enough. A bit of bold stuff from Carlos Martin to assist his teammates to come through here on the exit. There's a bit of... That's not okay, no. I'm going to say it. Love you, Carlos. Do get along with Carlos Martin quite well. That was a bad move.
There was no problem with anything up until Ravazza.
Yeah,
and then, or indeed letting Vosnica through on the inside. That was quite clever, really. But running Hoyer completely into the gravel there was definitely not okay. And so he may well come under fire from the stewards for that one, and hopefully does.
Well, a switch from the race lead then as Dennis Jordan retakes over the front of the field. Not fought at all from Alex Siebel as they are starting to feel the pressure. Red Bull's running 1 and 2, but the pressure is behind from 2. Again, this is the sister teammates to clarify as to what's happening with NetRex. We have 4 teams essentially run in partnership with NetRex. You obviously have the NetRex car itself, being NetRex Grand Prix, and the NetRex P1 Sim Grand Prix. Those are the out-and-out, definitely 110% NetRex. Unicorns of Love are in partnership with NetRex running their drivers, and there is also a partnership between them and Edge Esports as well, as memory serves. So it's those 4 that are sort of in partnership. It's just how they view the partnerships and how strong that partnership is, and also how they play with each other. I am wisely informed, same as it was with Burst and even back ACR Zack Speed back in the day, and potentially less so with Precision, maybe with Twister, we don't know. But there isn't team orders within the camps. It's just realistically get out there and go racing. If you want to assist, help each other out, but just get out there and go racing.
Yeah, that seems to have been taken on by everybody so far in this season as well, which is good to see. Vosnica now on the back of the Red Bulls, and this could be a problem for the both of them. But what they can do, of course, is play off of each other here, Jordan and Siebel, to try and keep those 2 behind. They're doing a very good job just for the moment. If they can keep these 2 behind until their pit stop, then they'll be in a great place, but it's going to be very difficult to do that. Great move by Vosnica, and a good opportunity here for Spork to get through as well.
Oh, they're both going for gaps that do not exist. Colin Spork trying to get to the outside of Tozer. Noah Roivers basically just pushed off by Alex Siebel. I think it was more his own mistake running through the exit there. Alex Siebel had just about given enough room, at least from my eye. Might have just been a slight brush between the 2 of them. Alex Siebel holding on for dear life at the moment to try and basically keep the 2 behind at bay for the next couple of laps, as they'll be heading into the pit lane after that to try and eye up a one-stop strategy that might well potentially come out victorious. Halfway point in the race is on its way, and we really don't know which strategy is the best and who is coming out on top today. Alex Siebel defensive down the hill, down towards Ravazza. Colin Spork, no way to go right now. Neither is Jan Vosnitzer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very tight and twisty track, of course, and it's very difficult to overtake, as we're seeing right now. Sid was doing a great job as well, but now finally Spork is able to get alongside him, and Vosdica looks like he's going to easily sail on past as well.
Yeah, that was not a particularly difficult move from those two. Once they'd saved up enough push to pass, saved up, the timing for the DRS, they both get their way past Alex Siebel and Siebel, who finished runner-up in 2021, if memory serves. So he'll have to fight that one on a little bit more at a later date. Another retirement to add to the list is Komaligos, retired a bit earlier on the race. Adam Rainey joins the ranks of retirements across the opening Grand Prix of this season, despite having some good pace a bit earlier on. Not sure what happened to the Netrex Grand Prix driver, but only 2 retirements from the day.
Yeah, fortunately, only 2 just for the moment, but we'll have a look briefly as to what happened to Adam Rainey. It looks like he was battling away, as everybody seems to be.
But a mistake.
It could well be.
Yeah.
Just on the curb and into the barriers there on the left-hand side through the Villeneuve chicane. Surprised we haven't seen a little bit more of that, got to be honest, because it's very difficult the barriers are quite close around here, is what I mean. So, surprised that hasn't happened a little bit more often. But yeah, only 2 retirements for the first half of this race.
Yeah, just hooked a little bit too much on the left-hand side. Race lead about to disappear from the clutches of Dennis Jordan, as here comes Colin Spork to retake the race lead for Unicorns of Love. Nice, easy move again. DRS and push to pass, and Jan Vosnitz is going to go the other way around, down towards Tamburello. It returns to... Oh, no, maybe not, as Jan Vosnitz is under a lot of pressure from Dennis Jordan to hold on to that. Of course, there is just not enough grip going the way of the 27, and Jan Vosnitz grabbed second. Colin Spork back to the race lead. Those kind of mistakes, to go back to your point, we don't typically see in this, because this is the Formula SimRacing World Championship, our highest tier in Formula Sim Racing, and that's why we've got some of the best drivers in RF2 Sim Racing. Mistakes like that don't really happen. Such an easy one to do, though, with the curbing on the left-hand side. Cars are always slightly unbalanced as well, as you've turned in, as you've thrown the steering wheel over. That's such an easy mistake to make.
Yeah, very true. It is indeed. I mean, interesting. I just want to bring up a point about Jan Vosdica here, really, because he is on the soft tyres. Colin Spork out in front at the moment on the mediums. We haven't really seen like that is the case, though, if you see what I mean. We haven't really seen that Vosdica's very much quicker than Spork. We saw earlier on that Jordan was really struggling off of the start. Maybe now it's become apparent that he was just saving the tyres for a bit of a longer stint here. But either way, I would expect Vosdica to be catching Spork a little bit quicker and be applying the pressure maybe at the front of this race, but he's really not doing that on these soft compound tyres.
But maybe this is trying to play the longer game, trying to keep these tyres within reach at the moment. Also, potentially understand that there might well be threat from behind later on. I don't know. I don't know what their game plan is, but right now Vosdica might just be playing the longer game to attack Colin Spork towards the pit window for the second pit stop, which they are inevitably going to make. Dennis Jordan, Alex Siebel, Mitchie Hoyer still not made their first stop in the day's action. Mitchie Hoyer, he'll spot those 2 Red Bulls in the distance and might well think, if only I hadn't come to blows with Carlos Martin. Obviously, nothing really he could do in that scenario. He was just pushed off the road. Still certainly not done for the 4-time World Championship race winner.
Yeah, I think if Hoyer really is serious about winning this championship, and we believe that he is, he's got to pick up points consistently like his teammate did. He can't have confidence knocked from a poor result like we saw last season. Obviously, the DNF was in strange circumstances at the Dutch Grand Prix, and it was unexpected and quite dramatic. But he's got to. What he should have done there is kind of taken some comfort in the fact that he'd won the previous 3 races, and then taken that confidence into the next one and continued on at the same consistency that he had before. Wasn't able to do that, and that's what he really needs to do this season if he wants to take home the title. I feel being consistent over the year long and not having confidence knocked by a bad result as we saw through the midpoint of last season.
Yeah, it was a fantastic push from Mitchie Hoyer to take on Peter Berliak at the Dutch Grand Prix. A great little race, but like I say, a bit of an odd issue with one of the curbs, and it stole his chance to at least make it 4 consecutive podiums, maybe even 4 consecutive wins to open the season, which has not been seen too often. Cameron Roger, I'll bring back into this just a moment, because we're seeing the one-stoppers, Dennis Jordan, Alex Siebel, Mitchie Hoyer, the 3 that have yet to come into the pit lane. They're going maybe a little bit longer than we expected. Is this part of the predicted strategy? Is Michi Hoyer's going to run wide at Piratella and open the door for Janis Brakshock to come through and maybe even Noah Rovers behind? Is this expected?
Yeah, I think this is really the point actually with Michi Hoyer. I think he's struggling now with those hard, also the medium compound tyres. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Red Bull guys were in as well, because they've already been overtaken. But just remember, where they are on track, all these cars need to do another stop as well. So it's not too bad, but I don't think it's really going to work out for the race victory. And what they've probably doing is they're probably taking some losses now, trying to get closer to the other guys' pit stops so that the offset isn't quite as big in the third or the second stint for these guys.
So you're definitely feeling a two-stop strategy race as Noah Royver's going to get past Janis Brakshock here and grab over what is now fourth position as Dennis Jordan has been to the pit lane. Cam, you're feeling a two-stop is almost a certainty as the best strategy.
Yeah, it's just these guys are committed now, so I think they're going to have to do this with Jordan Hoyer. Siebel stayed out because they do share pit boxes, the teammates, so they were too close, so Siebel's got to go for another one. But yeah, it looks like two-stop strategy is probably the way to go today. But let's just see how this one works out, because Spork & Co, they're not going to be coming in too far from now. So the tyre difference, I don't think, is going to be as crazy as you may expect.
Well, if there is drivers that can make this work, it would be those three. We'll see what happened to Michi Hoyer, who was running a little bit too wide at Piratella and also went wide as just been passed by Janis Brakshock. Oh, just lit up the old... kind of lit up the rear in a sense, braking, coming downhill, just locking it up, using the curb a little bit too much on the right hand side. The rear was having absolutely none of it, went straight on at Variante. It's too easy to do Aqua Minerale. I was going to say Variante Villeneuve then, but definitely not that corner. Aqua Minerale, greatest corner name in motorsport, mineral water. Pushing a bit too hard, I think.
Yeah, just pushing it. And you can't forget as well that he was on the tight line there, getting on the curb, and he just went in at the same pace he would as if he was on the racing line there, and that's what sent him a little bit wide. But Alex Siebel in the pit lane now will presumably slot himself in here behind Jake Dennehan and possibly in front of Jordan, although maybe behind as well, due to the undercut. Either way, the Red Bulls are going to be very, very close together. I don't think Siebel actually has benefited particularly from having to stay out that extra lap. He loses that place and he's down to 8th at the moment. A good 30 seconds very nearly off the leader, Colin Spork. I know Spork starts to pit, but he's got a long way to go on these tyres of Siebel. And if he wants to really get a podium here, he's going to need a very, very big undercut. But can he really afford to do that if he's looking after his tyres for the entirety of this remainder of the race?
Bit of a snap moment there from Jan Vosnitzer, taking an awful lot of curve at Variante Alta as well, struggling to get the power down on the exit of Aqua Minerale. By the way, big shout out Sander Callis, running those hard tyres. We've seen those out in action across the Academy Championship and Pro Championships earlier on in the day, and they are not good, I think was the best way of putting them. And so bold call to try that one in the World Championship. He is a lap down. Let's see if Jan Vosnitzer could go and grab the race lead. Colin Spork over to one side. Doesn't necessarily fight it too hard at the moment. Wouldn't say he gave it to him. I just think no need to fight that one too hard right now.
Yeah, these two really need to fall into line and work together almost in the next few moments until they've made their final pit stops, in my opinion. Then they can start to fight those around them. And when the race lead, of course, is on the line, then they will start to fight this one a little bit harder. But for now, you really need to stay into line, I would say. Although saying that, I would put my money on the driver out of these two who is in front of the other going into the final stint because of the track position. When they start fighting, I feel like the driver who's left behind might well find it difficult to actually overtake. So there is going to be a little bit of a battle here, you would imagine, to be the first man onto this final stint and get that track position before those final 20 laps or so, or however long that's going to be.
Now, this is almost counter to how things would normally be at Imola, as Jake Dennehan ahead of Dennis Jordan, the next target for Jordan to clear as we run down into Aqua Minerale. Of course, Dennehan on some slightly older tyres in comparison to the German we ride on board with. Typically we think Imola is quite a difficult circuit to go racing on. That has not been the case over the running of round number 1 in 2022, as Colin Spork's going to prove that point tenfold by retaking the race lead. Another switch between them, couple of laps, couple of switches, and Colin Spork retakes the number 1 spot on our leaderboard. Dennis Jordan still not able to get past Jake Dennehan at the moment, might potentially do this on the run down. down into turn 1, but you can see how much time he's lost. It's well over a second because Alex Siebel has closed in. I wonder if Denahan's kind of doing his teammates a little bit, or assistant, whatever you want to call it, a little bit of assistance here by just using the push to pass, trying to keep Dennis Jordan at bay. It's not working right now. Jordan's there. Oh, Denahan's in deep, might be off and might open the door for Siebel to come through.
Yeah, Siebel just walked through the open door there, and a nice move really from Jordan. It always was bound to get tight into turns 1 and 2 there, but it was a nice move. A little bit of contact made, of course, but nothing that either driver really did wrong. There's just not a lot of space really for these guys to really work. So yeah, while you say the overtaking has been fairly easy, I feel like it has been quite a lot down to the push to pass. If these guys were left solely to their devices with the DRS, I feel like it would be a lot more difficult for them, and that's what they may well have if they all run out towards the end of this race. If you've got some left, then obviously it's going to make your life a bit easier, but I feel like if everybody's just left to the DRS, we're going to see a bit similar situation to what we saw last year. If you're looking at the results, you might have thought, very exciting race between Hoyer and Duval with only half a second separating them at the line, but it really wasn't like that. There really wasn't much positional change at all.
Jan Vosnitzer into the pit lane off of those softs onto some medium tyres. I was going to say hards then, no, mediums. The yellow wall tyres. So he's into the pit lane. See where Dennis Jordan comes out in comparison, trying to make these softs go to the end of the race. As that, I believe, is Jan Vosnitzer directly ahead. So any chances of this race victory, I mean, you can spell it out to me there, Ewan. I don't think it's going to happen today.
Yeah, chances are gone with a capital G there, I'm afraid. I think it's basically down to Jake Denahan, if I'm honest, slowing them up just a little bit. Obviously, you mentioned that partnership with Edge Esports. It's turned into a lot more of a useful partnership for Netrex than maybe they initially thought it would, actually. Because it's handed Vosnica those positions over the Red Bull guys. There's almost no way that they're going to be able to catch here Jordan and Siebel. I know they're on the softer compound, but they've got to take care of them for the next few laps. There's still got 23 laps to go after this one to do on the softest compound we have here available this season. So it's a real write-off for them in terms of getting that win, getting a podium here. Still very possible in terms of where Roivers is at the moment. He's going to come out behind the Red Bulls, you'd imagine. The likes of Leonov, Braxok are as well. But yeah, Spork and Vosnica absolutely gone.
We'll go to Cam Roger very quickly then. The likelihood of Dennis Jordan, Alex Seal being able to use the soft tyres, even trying to make them go to the end of the race. Can they still attack Jan Vosnitzer? Can they still go for the race lead potentially?
I think the gap is close enough. 2 seconds. I think they've still got half a chance. It is going to be difficult because for sure those softs on their car need to go a long distance, but they are going to have a bit of a pace advantage, which might actually offset the fact that they're having to conserve just a little bit. So I think this might not be too bad, but the Red Bull guys need to work together, maybe sort of DRS and sort of overtake each other every lap kind of thing.
Who knows where this one's going to go. At the moment, though, I would say it is advantage to the likes of Vosnitzer. If Colin Sport comes in fairly soon as well, I'm sure he'll be in the same boat as potentially kind of keeping this victory under wraps. I just don't really know you, and that's why we love the opening rounds of these seasons, because we just really don't know where it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. The opening rounds always have been very exciting indeed, with different race winners and different guys up towards the front. So it's all a bit of a learning curve. I feel like this season more than most. Obviously, we mentioned earlier on, no previous champions, but the new car and the new rules with so on and so forth has made this very, very interesting indeed, and very, very difficult for a few drivers as well. Michi Hoyer being one of them, of course. Having Netrex drivers ganging up on him everywhere, and Denahan is going to be no different by the looks of things.
Yeah, I think this was a difficult pass for Dennis Jordan. Whether there's enough push to pass to Denahan's possession at the moment, we'll see. Michi Hoyer over to the outside now, holding it to the outside, instantly chops back across Jake Denahan to be like, no sir, you are not going to blast down the inside. I am holding on to this position. Thank you very much. I'll see you at the checkered flag. Bye-bye. As now 4 seconds is the gap that he has to close down to go and catch Alex Siebel. I think by this point, by the way, this is a new car, the Formula Pro car here on rFactor 2, but remember that a lot of these drivers and teams have got experience. Brought this up earlier on the broadcast in the rFactor 2 official Formula Series, Formula Pro and Formula Challenge. Of course, Dennis Jordan, Alex Siebel, Michi Hoyer, and that they've all had experience taking part in Formula Pro. Colin Spork drove for Team Redline in Formula Challenge, along with Noah Roivers and all that. They've all got experience within this car. It's sort of not an unknown to them, apart from the fact of they're running double the tyre wear than what they're typically used to. So these tyres do burn out fairly quickly, although whether that affects thermal degradation doesn't really. It's more the percentage wear. The key thing is, though, is that we've passed an hour into this race, which is longer than they've raced in a car like this that's this difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the car is the same, but there are a number of different things circling around. Of course, as well, racing in a race of this distance, but also with these tyre rules in terms of having to use different compounds and so on. That's not really a thing that has been a thing in the Formula Pro or Formula Challenge official rFactor 2 championships. So yeah, it is a kind of new set of circumstances for everybody here, and of course there's more rounds than there were in any of the seasons we've had for Formula Pro or Formula Challenge just yet. So it is slightly different, even though there will be that little bit of experience already there for some of these guys. Yeah, and I have to say I am enjoying the new car here in Formula SimRacing. It's produced very good racing. The last car last season was a little bit difficult at this circuit to make any overtakes. As I mentioned earlier on, Liam Duval was so close to Mitty Hoyer all race long, but couldn't get anywhere in terms of making a move, really. But we haven't seen that really be a problem today.
Although I will say, Liam Duval did put on definite move of the race. I'm pretty sure he went around the outside of Piratella and also went around the outside of Aqua Minerale, which does not happen that often. In a car like this, you kind of wait for the DRS zones to make those kind of moves, so you're kind of a bit more patient with when you can actually go for the move. So in that sense, it's pluses and minuses. Noah Roivers, Jake Dennehan into the pit lane, as comes Zoltschutz on the nose of Carlos Martin. Got to see the ground effect car in action. Obviously brought up Sandro Callas on those hard tyres, represent for the ground effect team in last position. Zoltschutz moving over to ground effect from HM Engineering, another one of those drivers, as HM Engineering basically I'll go with it. It imploded, and a lot of the drivers were sort of left, Janis Bakshuk being one of them, jumped over with a lot of the Hungarian drivers over into our Arnage competition, which by the way seems like a great outfit for them.
Yeah, certainly running quite well at the moment. But I feel like, judging by what I've seen over the last year or so from Brexit in the last couple of years, really, it doesn't really matter where he's driving. I don't want to say he kind of keeps himself to himself and whatever, because I don't quite know what he's like within these teams, having not spoken to him very extensively at all. But he just kind of seems to just perform whoever he's with. He kind of gets on with it, so to speak. And can produce some very good results just kind of on his own, as he's doing at the moment, having a very quiet but solid race.
Yeah, into the pit lane comes Colin Sport, comes Janis Bakshuk as they relinquish the race lead, which is now quite a sizable margin to Jan Vosnitzer. Janis Jordan and Alex Siebel take over second and third position as Colin Sport departs the pit lane and takes over fourth position. Janis Bakshuk, who's eyeing up a podium. No, Rose wasn't able to get through on Colin Sport. If Janis Bakshuk, by the way, can get a podium, it'll be back-to-back podiums for the first time in his World Championship career after taking a podium to finalise the season at the Brazilian Grand Prix for HME. So, a fair little shout. Think a podium grab might be a little bit out of the clutches, but who knows over the next 18 laps of this race as Zoltschutz joins the retirement. I wouldn't say it's too many people. I was going to say array of retirements from this race. It's only 3.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the first round of the season. You tend to see less retirements either way because people are very much more motivated to carry on from adversity than they are a little bit deeper on into the season. But yeah, I think he went off at some point during Aqua Minerale, maybe getting hitting the barriers at some point through there. Didn't see it myself, but yeah, he's certainly out of the race now for a pretty poor day for that ground effect team, unfortunately, with Callas all the way down in 17th right now as well. Yeah, the real excitement is up towards the front at the moment. Vosnica leading, and he's got to be hopeful of his chances here, because he will have Jordan and Siebel kind of, they'll be his allies, I guess, in the latter portion of this race, unintentionally, because Spork and Roivers will have a hard time getting through on them, and that is all going to play into the hands of the leader. Yeah,
I'm not necessarily sure how this one's going to play out. 2.8 seconds, 2.9 seconds, the gap between Siebel and Vosnitzer. It's gone out. It was around about 2 seconds on the departure of pit lane from those groupings and from Vosnitzer when he came out onto those medium tyres. kind of suggesting that the soft tyres, obviously they're going to have to look after them. The soft tyres are going to be the faster ones, but they've got to look after them maybe a little bit too much to go and close on for Nitzer, so the victory challenge isn't really going to come from Red Bull. But you're absolutely right. The fact that Colin Spork, Noah Roivers out onto the track on the soft tyres, and especially considering how little running that they've done on these sets, and considering just basically jumping onto them, especially in the form of Colin Spork. If Colin Spork can side his way through Jordan and Siebel, this victory is absolutely not done yet. Those soft tyres should be more than enough, more than plentiful to go and try and attack Vosnitzer, but there's less fuel in the car, less tyre wear.
Yeah, arguably the passes coming up here on the Red Bulls is more important for Spork because it kind of decides whether he will have a shot at this race win or not. We know that there's going to be almost no tyre worries for them unless they do something stupid, because they're on the two-stop strategy at the moment. But there certainly are for the Red Bulls, and given the fact that they haven't been able to catch Vosnicker so far, I feel like things are only going to be they're only going to be less in their favour as we continue on with this race. 2.5 seconds right now. In my mind, they're not going to be able to catch Vosnicker, but they certainly can prevent Spork from catching Vosnicker here. Obviously, they're not doing it to hinder Spork. They're just trying to get as many points as they can. But it's going to be hard for them to do so. 16 laps to go at the end of this one, and you've got a very, very fired up Dutchman right behind you for the entirety of that, you'd imagine.
And he is absolutely flying right now. The previous lap time from Vosnitzer and Siebel and Jordan were all low 18s. Colin Spork, fastest lap of the race, a 16.7, 1.5 seconds faster. Unicorns of Love are charging here. First target for Colin Spork to tick off will be Dennis Jordan. Let's see if he's saved up enough of that push to pass as well. DRS will be wide open. The first one to pass, Dennis Jordan. Let's see where he does it. He might be able to clear both of them on the run down towards Tamburello, but Dennis Jordan with the defensive move, basically rolling as a roadblock into Tamburello. To the outside goes Colin Spork. Enough room is given from Dennis Jordan. They're bashing wheels on the exit of Tamburello down towards Villeneuve, and it should be Colin Spork's position once they hit the braking zone, but Dennis Jordan is going all in, hanging the rear out. Look at that from Spork as Dennis Jordan tries to fire one back down the inside.
That was incredible car control from Spork there to hang it around the outside of the second chicane, the second part of the Villeneuve chicane there. He was on the absolute limit. Jordan was giving him just exactly the right amount of room to the absolute centimetre there, and Spork still had enough poise to just hang it around the outside, swing the rear end out, say thank you very much, and defend his way into Tozo as well. That was absolutely unbelievable. And also one of the most important passes he's going to make all day. An incredible, incredible move.
Honestly, breathtaking little move there from Colin Spork. Just tried to attack. Again, eyes on. First victory of his World Championship career and desperately wants it. Next target, Alex Siebel. Surely this one's going to be a little bit easier than Dennis Jordan as there's no DRS. The front end. Chances of a victory have just absolutely shot through the roof for Unicorns of Love. What can Noah Roivers do? Still no way to pass Dennis Jordan. Colin Spork grabs that second position. 2.8 seconds the target. Jan Vosnitzer is a sitting duck right now as here comes Roivers.
Yeah, he's trying to replicate the move made by Spork, and it's not quite as well executed there, I'm afraid. Got kind of caught on the outside curb there and couldn't get through. I think Roivers, the best he can hope for at the moment is a podium really in this one, but that would still be a very good result for him. Both Red Bulls are going to have a very hard time keeping him behind.
Jan Vosnitzer, by the way, has done a few races inside the World Championship, 4 in total. Highest finish was 5th place twice in the 2021 World Championship, one for Go Speed, one for Edge. That was at the British Grand Prix and at the French Grand Prix throughout that season. Retirements in the other 2 races, so from those 4, looking to start this season with a race victory, which just would almost be unheard of. As here comes Roivers, looking to the inside of Dennis Jordan. No way to make that one past the 2021 Pro Champion. Not able to pass the 2021 Indy Pro Champion. That one's a bit confusing to say back to back.
Yeah, indeed, but 2 very talented drivers, there's no question about that. Jordan, it's not going to be his day, he's not going to be adding to his 3 World Championship race wins here today, you'd imagine, but a top 5 would still be solid for him. I think he should be able to hold on to that as long as he keeps his tyres into check. Hoyer would do very well to catch him, but I don't think he will do. The likes of Leonov and Braxtock have given themselves quite a lot to do here to get up towards the Red Bulls as well, with a diminishing amount of laps remaining.
Yeah, like I say, every lap that's ticked off is, I always say it, their opportunity's gone for some of these, and every lap that's ticked off are laps where you can take a breath when you're the defensive driver. At the moment, it's looking fairly comfortable for 2 top 5s at least for Red Bull, but I don't think it's going to be a podium at all. I just don't see it happening. I think Noah Roivers has the car, and for Netrex, I mean, consider how they went in the Pro Championship a little bit earlier on, a 1-2-3 from them in that. They might well, in a sense, obviously with the P1 Sim and, of course, Unicorns of Love, might well be looking at a 1-2-3 here in the World Championship as well.
Well, yeah, let's wait and see, because they might yet take each other off the road here. Vosdika and Spork are going to be fighting very hard. They're going to be fighting very hard for this race win. Hopefully we don't see that. But mistakes can happen, and it's a very narrow circuit. We've said that before, and we've seen that throughout this race so far. So, it just depends how these guys fight. It is an interesting dynamic with the kind of teammates but not kind of thing going on between these two teams at the moment. How far are they willing to push this? You mentioned there were going to be no team orders, but that can be the case. You feel that's the case at Red Bull, and Siebel and Jordan have been teammates for like years and years. So, that's not too much of a left field prospect. It's more the case of how far are they willing to push each. How big are the risks going to be, laps?
I don't think it's necessarily team orders. It's more doing the right thing that is the right thing for the team, and kind of pushing ego to one side. They
might disagree on what is the best thing, though. That's the thing here, especially when there's a kind of loyalty split in the different teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, at this point, when it comes to this level, when it comes to this part of the race, push. But as hard as it is, sometimes for the teams, they're not going to like me saying this, but sometimes you've got to push the team to one side and focus on the ego and focus on the solo. Of course, no contact, no pushing each other off. Colin Spork not quite close enough to Jan Bosnitzer at the moment. As long as the move's not risky, as long as it doesn't damage the opportunity of the team to grab a good result, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think he's going to be held back at all here. Let's not forget Spork's best finish in the World Championship is a second place at the Azure Grand Prix last season. It showed very good promise, but couldn't really quite string an entire race together on occasion, despite having the pace for a solid couple of results. But this is arguably the best race I've ever seen from him, to be quite honest. He's in a great place right now on the soft tyres with a load of ambition, and the race win kind of staring him in the face just up in front of him here. He's just got to be that little bit careful that these soft tyres don't go off before he gets through and Vosdika doesn't begin to drive away.
Well, surely the opportunity is on its way. There's DRS down towards rFactor, a little bit better through Variante Alta from Colin Spork as he'll line himself up. Eye his opportunity. This one's a bit more risky. Just trying to fill the mirrors of Jan Vosnitzer, but not fancying that one. Of course, it comes down to the start-finish straight. This should not be a particularly difficult pass, but that is easier said than done. Depends on how much of the push to pass Jan Vosnitzer saved. Look at that. You didn't even need a graphic to tell you what was going on there. That was the button pushed down about as hard as it can. Here comes Colin Spork to go and grab the race lead at the San Marino Grand Prix to open the season. He has done so with a swipe across the nose. Coming down into Tamburello, Unicorns of Love hit the front once again at the all-important 10 laps to go. Colin Spork is firing on all cylinders here this afternoon with eyes on a first World Championship victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And some around him will be beginning to wonder if anybody can stop him here, because Vosdika is going to have a very hard time on those medium tyres. Roivers is 2.5 seconds back, and surely Spork just needs to stroke this one home and just manage those tyres. Do not push them out of the window, as we mentioned earlier on. If you do push them out of their comfort zone, they're going to stay out of it and they're not going to come back. He just needs to be careful of that, not do anything stupid over the next 10 laps, and the victory will be his.
And it's all about who's going to finish in that second spot. Noah Roivers closing every single lap on Jan Vosnitzer, and I think that gap might well come down. The only person with DRS right now is Dennis Jordan on the rear end of his teammate Alex Ewell. Obviously, there's going to be no attempt at that point. Behind that, you've got the battle between Michi Hoyer and Ivan Leonov. It's a little bit too distant at the moment, but Michi Hoyer, who's basically, again, one stop, Ivan Leonov going a bit more aggressive, and this might well come under fire later on in this race, is running pretty much the exact same lap time as Michi Hoyer, just 0.08 faster over the previous lap was Leonov over Hoyer. The race lead is almost certainly sorted. 1 second faster, of course, with a bit of assistance from DRS there from Colin Sport, but 1 second faster on the previous lap than Jan Vosnitzer, and that gap continues to grow. Noah Roivers, though, was a couple of tenths faster than his teammates sat directly ahead, so that gap might be disappearing corner after corner, but I don't know about you, Red Bull are hanging on in there.
They're doing surprisingly well here, actually. I was expecting them to fall back a lot more than they did, but in the end, I think the soft tyres have actually performed a little bit better in terms of a whole stint length than I was actually expecting. I thought that once you were pushing pushing the limits here by going, oh dearie me, as Skrovron has got into contact with Denahan here. But yeah, I thought once you push them out of the comfort zone of 20 laps or so, the soft tyres would really struggle and you'd have to drive very slowly. But yeah, the Red Bulls are doing a very good job with those at the moment. Damien Skrovron, meanwhile, though, is not having a great first race in his first full World Championship season.
Now let's see how this one happens. So you've got Jake Denahan to the outside. Oh, he's just going for that little kind of bit between the two wheels and sort of making contact with the front right of Damien Skrovron. I don't know how you read into that one. Couldn't really see it from that angle too well. This, by the way, excellent from Skrovron. See you, mate. Clearly did not realise there was a lack of front wing on the nose of that burst, but that is top tier if ever I've seen it. Yeah, there we are. It's actually quite surprising how much downforce you do lose just by a little bit of carbon fibre at the front, but there you are. Just driving straight across the can there. His race is as good as over at this stage. Not going to be scoring any points, I'm afraid, for Burst Esport on this occasion. And Michi Hoyer might be losing some more points in a few moments' time as well, with Ivan Leonov and Jens Braksok 7th and 8th for those guys at the moment. I feel like I might have cursed Braksok a little bit earlier on by saying he might have got a podium. I'm afraid it hasn't quite been his race. Didn't quite have the pace earlier, really, did he? Because Spork and Vosnica were really starting to run away, and Braksok started to struggle, and ever since he's really dropped down the order. Although only 14 seconds off the leader after a distance like this one is not too bad, in all honesty. It's just the positions, he's dropped quite a few of them by this point. Skrovron obviously into the pit lane courtesy of the lack of front wing on that vehicle, so getting that one sorted and dropping a lap down, as was Pignataro on this group as well, dropping a lap down on the previous one. Liam Rance adds to the retirement list and makes it 4 retirements, and the second one for TR powered by Geeks Energy. Those cars both retiring, and I'm pretty sure that Michael Teichmann and the team will take one look at this and think, right, we've got a bit of work to do before we head to the second round of the season, only a few weeks' time. But, I mean, unfortunately, this is a hard place to enter and go racing. And I think some of them have found that this afternoon.
Yeah, certainly looks like that for Liam Rance, for example. He's just got off the road ever so slightly there. Lots of different colours on that livery.
It's bright.
We're not going to be missing those cars, are we, in the order? And there's a bit of a drive off the road, and I'm afraid that's out of the race for Liam Rance on his debut there. So yeah, there we are. He'll be out of the race here as well. Yeah, we're certainly seeing some stronger teams up towards the front, and then the slightly slower ones towards the back. There's certainly a bit more of an order in this season by the looks of things. Got likes of Netrex, Unicorns, Corns of Love, Red Bull and Burst towards the front, and then some of the others a little bit further down in kind of got sections of the grid that they're filling out just at the moment. We'll see if that's the case over the entire season, but there certainly seems to be stronger teams than others in this season, more apparently so than we have in the last few years.
Are we potentially welcoming back in a podium challenge for Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports as they are closing in on Noah Roivers? It's not by much. You can see just on the horizon there's 6-7 laps to go in the San Marino Grand Prix. There might well be an opportunity for Alex Siebel to remove the chances of this being essentially a Netrex 1-2-3. Right now, they are the only team that can really do it. Michi Hoyer, way too far off the rear end of Michi Hoyer himself. I was saying that gap was coming down. He is coming under a lot of pressure from another Netrex driver in the form of Ivan Leonov.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very impressed actually with the Red Bull pace on these soft tyres. The longer they go here, the stronger they seem to be getting. And Roivers seems to be struggling, despite having done less laps on these tyres right now. So maybe this is something to note of the Red Bulls a little bit later on in this season. Their pace on the soft tyres seems to have been very strong. They weren't that impressive on the mediums, I've got to be honest. They really weren't. But They're starting to do well deep into this stint, and of course low fuel load as well, which might be helping them along a little bit. Of course, helped Dennis Jordan to another pole position in the World Championship. So maybe low fuel is kind of their thing. Not really sure if it's even possible that the setups can be beneficial to one or the other.
Yeah, Michi Hoyer then losing the position to Ivan Leonov, and his run at the San Marino Grand Prix not really continuing. His run of victories to open the season did bring that one up. His first race victory in the Formula SimRacing World Championship came at the Malaysian Grand Prix back in 2020 with... we were both commentating on that day, if I remember correctly. I think you were there, Ewan. If not, it was Cam was alongside me. I don't remember. It was a couple of years ago now. And it was the outside move, the final corner, to go and grab the race lead from then defending world champion Jerne Simicic. Absolutely superb. And on the hard tyres as well. Timed that one perfectly, did Michi Hoyer. And then obviously opened the season last year with a race victory. This season not starting out so well. That's not so bad, though. That, fair enough. It happens. You take it one race at a time, and maybe this is sort of the action to kick you a little bit more into gear as the season progresses.
Yeah, and as Cam has helpfully reminded me, we do have a different point system this year. So in terms of if it was the FIA point system, he would be losing a good nearly 20 points to the likes of Colin Sport, the race winner at the moment. Under this point system, he's only going to lose, roughly 15, 16 points or so in terms of the order. So the gaps between the different cars are not as big. And I have to say, I haven't been a fan of the FIA point system for a long time. I'm still not. I'm a much bigger fan of this one, and I hope it stays for a bit longer, because it's certainly set to produce maybe a closer championship, maybe even this season than we've seen in the last couple of years.
I do like the FIA point system because it rewards victories higher than everything else. But yeah, fair enough, each their own. Picking up what you're putting down. I do actually, if there's one point system that I do like more than anyone else, it's MotoGP's. Top 15 score points, only 5 points between first and second, still rewards victories. Nice, concise, good bit of point structure work right there. But our point structure for this season, fair enough, it's there to reward victories still. Obviously, percentage of points is higher for the race victor, and there's a larger step between first and second than there are between any other positions. But sometimes you got to change things up and see how things unfold.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the FIA one is not that not the 7 point gap between first and second, which is it's the fact that the next gap is only 3 points, which is just strange.
Because it rewards victories.
Yeah, but I don't.
It rewards them victories. You've got to be taking those big dubs. Can't believe I said big dubs on a broadcast.
I hope you're ashamed. I don't really. I'm not. I can't say I'm a massive fan of it. I'm really not. But either way, it's everywhere, isn't it? So I've got to get used to it, even after all these years. But there you are. I'm glad about the one in FSR though. It's a lot better.
Nice. That was slightly more positive than I was putting it. So fair enough. We'll allow it to continue. Michi Hoyer's still trying to apply some pressure to Leonov, returning to the action with just 4 laps to go in the opening race of the season. Hoyer's not done with it. He's still there. Same as how Seabor's closed back in, almost within DRS range. And to be fair, almost within DRS range is Roivers on Woznitzer as well. Might have a little 4-way fight for the basically both the steps on the podium below the race winner.
Yeah, whoa! Oh dear, that was so close to Hoyer being out of this race late on. That's Pignataro, I think, isn't it? Off the road, quite possibly, and in the wall in a big way there. Coming out of Acqua Minerale there. So that was a very big accident for the driver, who of course was runner-up in the Indy 300 only a few weeks ago. This is what happened to him, just minding his own business down in 16th. Not a great day for him, and just loses it up the hill there into the barriers. And Hoyer is a very, very lucky boy.
Nearly cleaned off his teammate as well. I'm sure Janis Brakshock might have been like, who was that? Oh, never mind. I'll throw it back to anyone who remembers in GT Pro in Season 2, if I remember correctly, when might have been Yuri Kasdorp, the RHG driver, dropped it at the top of Radion and essentially took out all of his teammates, Yovsky, Hani Al-Sabti and Risto Capit. They were the only drivers that were taken out in that, but they were all his teammates, which was, to be fair, now looking back on it, quite hilarious.
But it wasn't funny at the time though, for the team.
Not for the RHG team.
No.
For everyone else, potentially a little bit.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Sorry,
everybody
lads.
else loving it, but yeah. That was an interesting debrief, as they say. So yeah, there you go. But thankfully, Pinataro didn't end up getting into Braxuck there, and everybody was able to avoid. Hoyer has actually got through on Leonov in the last couple of moments, by the way, and he's now in 6th. This battle as well, closing up for 2nd, but with only 2 laps to go, you often need a couple of laps to really set yourself up for this one. And it's kind of questionable how much push to pass everybody has remaining at this stage. So it may well be that these 4 finish in the positions that they're in right now.
Let's see what Noah Roivers does. So obviously, just use a bit of DRS to catch up to Jan Woznitzer there. Not really attack Jan Woznitzer, but just managed to close in that gap. Obviously, Leonov there now back ahead of Michi Hoyer here, and there was a little bit of contact between the two of them over the previous lap. We'll see if Hoyer can get his way back through with just a couple of laps to go. But the gap, it's a little bit too big between Siebel and Roivers, but now that the teammates, it's all kind of compressing, might well just open up the opportunity. But like I say, at a time like this, it's so easy to trip up over yourself, especially on that final lap. You only get one real opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's only really one left, one trip into turn 1 remaining here for Roivers to get through, or anybody indeed, for that matter, to get through here. So a little bit desperate times for everybody up here. I think Volzica will be able to hold on, but Roivers is going to give it a good go onto the straight right now. DRS open as well, but look at that. The car lamps are opening up. Everybody just draining their push to pass at this stage. He might as well have none left by the end of this.
Never mind.
He's back again, thankfully.
Never mind, potential disconnection there coming from Jan Woznitzer. Either way, the 2 Red Bulls are switched and Dennis Jordan's grabbed 4th position just in the background. But whether there is enough pace in the cars to go and grab those 2 Netrex P1 Sim Grand Prix, I don't think there is. I just don't think Red Bull have the pace right now. They certainly don't have the opportunities. Every corner's flying past. I do not know what happened to Jan Woznitzer, but we can only say aliens, and somehow we're still in the race.
Yeah, thankfully he's still in the race because he's driven very well here today. Didn't have quite enough to hold off Colin Spork in the end, who has been formidable, but Woznica very, very good in his own right, starting this season off in a very, very good manner, if he can make it to the end.
Bit of a mistake there again from Dennis Jordan. They really have struggled. To be fair, most of the cars have struggled with Aqua Minerale this afternoon. Just a bit too much pressure, a bit too much pushing. There is the DRS zone here. We'll refocus on our race leader, though, Colin Spork, who hasn't done many races in FSR, it must be said, has had a podium at the previous round, previous season, but this time it is a victory as Colin Spork will take the checkered flag first and win for Unicorns of Love, as there has been drama in the podium battle. What has happened to Noah Roivers' retirement for the race on the final lap?
Dennis Jordan sneaks a podium right at the very end here at Imola. Somehow Roivers has managed to get off the road. I hope it wasn't contact with his teammate as they were coming down towards Rivazza here. Let's go on board with him and find out what happened. Of course, it's the most difficult braking zone on the corner, arguably, as you're turning, coming downhill all at the same time. It's just a very simple mistake right at the very end. He backs it into the barriers and he's out. No points next to his name. After looking like he was going to get a podium with 2 corners to go, he's going to get absolutely nothing from this race.
Looks like a solo, maybe a break. Yeah, no, there's nothing on that. Cam, Roger, what happened? That brake failure, it seems?
I wouldn't be surprised, actually. We saw this a fair amount in the pre-season tests. The brakes seem to last over the sort of 45-minute hour distance that we've seen in the Formula Pro, Formula Challenge series. But then obviously we go longer, and in pre-season here, a lot of people were failing with their brakes. And I think that's just what we've seen again. Looks like he didn't have anything. And obviously, once you notice that, as soon as you hit the brake pedal, there's nothing you can do about it. You're just going straight in the wall.
Unbelievably poor luck there from Noah Roivers. It could have been the 1-2-3 for Netrex, but unfortunately, courtesy of that, with the final real braking zone to go. I mean, you said, Ewan, there's a lot of pressure going through the brake pedal there. That's rough. That is so unfortunate to not only jump into the World Championship, but to jump in with a podium.
Yeah, and if we have decided that it is a brake failure, then and he must have decided as well, great presence of mind for him to turn that car to the right-hand side and get it out the way of not rear-ending his teammate there, because he could have very easily just rear-ended Voznica, and then neither of them would have been on the podium. So he kind of sacrificed himself there for Vosnica to. I'm not sure how much of it was intentional or not, but yeah, certainly pulled that car to the right hand side, and in the end, thankfully, only he was out of the race after that failure, and not his teammate as well.
I think that really does show you how close the numbers are that they are running in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Speaking of close numbers, speaking of race winners, I think we should probably catch up with Colin Spork, who's about to burn it down here at Imola. Well, I think we'll catch up with him after his donuts, actually. That'd be a wiser call. He can really enjoy this moment. What a moment it is, Ewan, to jump in and to win.
Yeah, absolutely. First FSR World Championship win for him, and yeah, it's probably the first time. I haven't checked the official statistic on this, but probably the first time in a good while we've seen a first race win on the very first round of the season. Because normally the championship contenders are right up there and very, very attentive towards the start. But given that we've got so many new guys to contend with up towards the front this season, it's hardly surprising, given some of the performances we saw from Sport last year, that he's up here already in 2022.
Come on, Ewan, you're supposed to be up there with the stats with me. It was Michi Hoyer in 2020. It was his first race victory. And it was in the opening round of the season. Here's our finishers, though, in the opening round of this season. Colin Spork, Jan Vosnica and Dennis Jordan, who we'll catch up with on the podium. Alex Siebel, Ivan Leonov round out the top five with Hoyer Brackstock, Carlos Martin, Robin Panzer and Tom Oldenmenger. Great stuff, by the way, from Robin Panzer to jump back into the FSR World Championship after missing the last two rounds of last season and already being straight back up into pace on a car that he might well be a bit more unfamiliar with than the rest of the contingent. Noah Roivers going to be down the order. That's a big shame for that brake failure, but you know those things happen when you're pushing the margin so close. Jake Dennehan, Laurent Kiersmakers, Damian Skovron and Sandar Callas, the rest of the finishers, with Pignataro Rance, Zoltschut, Adam Rainey, Kamaligos rounding out our 20 car field here. Colin, welcome to victory lane, in a sense, to jump in and to take a victory. You were quite close at the Azure Grand Prix with a runner-up spot there, but this must be a lot better.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. Like getting a late sign with Netrax, and then hearing you can jump into the Unicorns of Love car, which is of course an amazing team, and it's an honor to drive under their branding, and then to not only drive but actually win the first race of the season for the Unicorns, even in FSR. So I mean that's an amazing. I couldn't have wished for any better, and just a really good day for Netrax in general. Like we worked really hard, and they helped me as well to get the car perfectly lined up. It would have been a very good finish, unfortunately for Noah at the end, because I don't know what exactly happened. I just heard that Noah binned it, and that's just very unfortunate for the team, for the standings. But still, it showed our like that we have the pace in us, and our potential, and it would have been great to have a 1, 2, 3, but 1, 2, 5, and 8. That's just amazing.
Now, speak of this car, which is new for FSR. You did obviously drive a little bit in the 2021 car. You have driven this car a little bit in the rFactor 2 Formula Challenge Championship. How difficult is this, especially over now basically a full Grand Prix distance comparatively to how it was in Formula Challenge, with it being sort of 45 minutes?
Well, of course, it's pretty tricky because also we have the 2 times tire wear. So if you really push the tires too much, you're already in the bin for the rest of the stint. So it's really, you need to practice and know where the exact limit is to drive on it all the time, especially when you're battling with guys over a very long distance, so different strategies, and then you need to overtake, defend, etc. It's very hard to keep the tires intact and to keep them doing exactly what you want to do. But that's what practice is for. With the team, we worked very hard to know exactly where to go and what to do, and we got it pin perfect.
Wow, congratulations to you, Colin. We'll run over to the stablemate, the Netrex P1 Sim Grand Prix driver of Jan Vosnica, to jump into the World Championship. 4 Grand Prix to your name prior to this, none of them seeing a podium, top 5s in 2 of those. What's it like to be up here on the podium and to have really challenged through that race?
It was amazing. To be honest, first of all, I didn't expect to be on the podium, neither top 5, because I was struggling so much. Ever since testing, this car hasn't suited me at all. So for me, it's a big surprise that I ended up on the podium. And yeah, P2, it's an amazing result. It was definitely not easy, the whole race. I was already annoyed in qualifying when I lost the pole position by like 2 thousandths. Yeah, that was not a nice feeling, but still, I was surprised by my pace and by everything completely that happened today. Yeah, very good day for overall.
With that qualifying, missing out by such a small margin, how do you refocus at the start of a race, especially in something where it is the unknown, where the strategy is sort of a big question mark for the entire grid? How is that like at the start of the race?
Well, I think in my position it was better maybe because I had no expectations coming into the race. I was, if I'm honest, not practicing completely. I don't think I've even done a full race stint in practice, so I had no expectations, and I just said to myself, yeah, just go for it and do everything you can. And yeah, on the start, somehow I jumped Dennis. My starts were horrible in the practice, so I was also surprised by that. Yeah, and somehow I ended up P2. So yeah, really good, very good.
Well, congratulations to you and the NetRex bunch. We'll jump down to Dennis Jordan, pole position. What was happening on strategy there? What was it? The push for the one stop. The kind of why? What went wrong?
No, I think the strategy was pretty good actually. Maybe even better than we had hoped. Unfortunately, I got quite a bad start. I pulled the clutch too much, and I think it was Buckshock behind who had a much better start, and he just couldn't avoid me. So he tapped me quite hard actually, and gave me quite some damage. So it just took a couple of laps to adjust to that, and that's when like the other guys at the front are so good, they just passed me left, right, and center. So that's where we lost the most time, and I think that's where we at least lost the chance to maybe fight for the victory. I mean, those two guys ahead were pretty fast, so would have been difficult anyway. But yeah, that's where we lost the most.
Well, you've got a fair amount of experience in this car, as does Alex. What are you kind of bringing to the table and learning as you go? Obviously, again, a bit of a step into the unknown with this being full Grand Prix distance. Is there still a lot that you're learning even now in this car?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are learning all the time. I mean, we are obviously trying to win here, but at the same time, we are trying to use this as a testing ground, for other competitions that this car for sure will be used in. So, and we don't always know the format of those. So I think through the more different experiences you can go with the car, the better. And we are definitely learning every test session and every race that we are doing here. So that's good.
Also, do want to ask one final question to you, Dennis, about potentially having more of a sort of a target on your back. We've spoken before in this broadcast earlier on about maybe the focus towards the older guard now, in a sense of the World Championship is kind of a bit of a rough way of putting it. But you, Alex and Mitchie, you're really like the faster contingent from the previous couple of seasons. Do you feel that kind of pressure?
Well, I mean, you just named those three. I mean, I think all of those guys here at the front, all the Netflix guys, they have been super quick for the last couple of years already and improving year by year. So I don't think it's totally fair to like count them out, but I know what you mean. So yeah, I think people expect us to win here, but I can tell those people now it's not going to be easy because those guys are quick. So we have to do our best, and we will try that for the next race.
Well, congratulations to you for another podium in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. We are going to grab one final interview from someone who we kind of wish we were interviewing in a sense under different circumstances. Just one final corner to go. Noah, what happened? Talk us through it.
My front left brake unfortunately failed, and that's pretty much it. I had a very good... Well, not a very good race, let's say, because my first stint was really bad because I opted for like a front wing configuration, which was like 3 clicks higher than what I'd driven before. So the car was all over the place, and that really got me into a bad position. So I changed the wings again for the second stint, but unfortunately I had to do a lot of overtaking, which was quite a bit of fun, but I think I just spent too much time in people that dirty air with the front brakes then heating up, and eventually it was a bit too much for them, but I mean at least it's some cool drama. So it's unfortunate, but it happens. So yeah.
Well, cheers now, at least for colouring that one in. Ewan, I'm going to head back to you. Final thoughts of the opening race of the season. Brilliant stuff, great drama, a win for Unicorns of Love and our new team in the FSR World Championship.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyable race. I feel like I say that every week in the Formula SimRacing World Championship, but it is true. This one especially, I feel like last couple of seasons, Imola race has been kind of difficult, really, with the how difficult it has been to overtake, but it wasn't really the case to the same degree on this occasion, which made the race very, very exciting indeed. Very hopeful for the rest of the season now as to what it might bring. Obviously, we know what circuits are likely to be on there, but we don't quite know when they're going to be just yet, which is also an added complexity to this 2022 season.
Is one of those things that only really Cameron Roger can fill us in on. Of course, been keeping his eye on the opening race of the season. El Presidente, how was things from your end?
Well, it's certainly a very hectic race, lots of little things going on. I think it's opening up for a really great season of of racing. 9 races left already. Next week, in a couple of weeks, round 2, I can reveal as it stands, it will be Malaysia in a couple of weeks' time that we will be racing. And yeah, the tracks are all going to be revealed as we go on to just add a little bit more spice to that. And yeah, obviously we're going to get some of the best tracks in rFactor 2 as the season progresses. So I think, yeah, it's going to be a great season. Tyre strategy was quite interesting here, and I think that's going to be quite a big factor with this ×2 word that we've got as well. So yeah, looking forward to the rest of the season.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you everyone for watching and keeping your eye on the opening round of the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Of course, thanks go out to our sponsors of Masita Esports and our broadcast partners in VCO. I've been Lewis McGlade. Ewan O'Leary's been alongside me in the commentary booth with Cameron Roger down in the virtual pit lane and Felix van Delft broadcasting the cameras all the way to you around the world. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the 13th of March. Until then, though, bye-bye.